Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another live stream of Shadowverse. Today is Friday, July 30th. It's been another month. There was a bit of an update, so we're starting on the second screen. I didn't want to start and then immediately have to download things, even though it was actually really a small download. Which almost certainly was just around this idea of them putting out a new ad here. Legendary guaranteed Resonant Chronicles bundles, which this does seem like this is a different way to advertise something that they've done before, but in all fairness, they've also kind of made it seem like it's a new offering. But we've seen this with other expansions, that you would have this spend 1,000 crystals to get a bunch of premium things. And I guess we'll open one pack today. For the accountability section, I have been playing Arkham City, but I really have not been doing anything too much with it. I maybe made 2 episodes of Arkham City, 2-hour-long episodes, and all I did was really just run around getting Riddler trophies and doing side missions. Like, I planned on doing more in the next episode that I recorded, and then I fell asleep, and then I woke up, and then I almost immediately fell asleep again. I mean, it really felt like it was a 16 hours of sleep in a 24-hour period. But yeah, maybe that's because I hurt my hip and I'm healing from that. Maybe that's just because I'm kind of incredibly unhealthy. Apparently we have 18 days to complete chapter 4, Entropy's Abyss Reconclusion. Otherwise we need to play some Forestcraft, which Forestcraft probably wouldn't be too hard. So let's just hop in here and see. Yeah, the last story that I even bothered to make an episode on, I think, was Fate's Trigger Conclusion. So here I imagine a significant amount of this I could just well, actually it seems like you could just kind of skip through several of this, and there's probably only one battle in totality. Alright, so there's one battle here, which means maybe there's a battle on 11 and maybe there's a battle on 12. So I could try and do that right now. I don't know if I really want to do it right now, though. Like, in a funny way, these single player experiences, yeah, I don't want to do that right now. They just get incredibly sidelined for the fact that you're already struggling, or at least I personally am already struggling with getting the daily quest done. Like, the entire balance of Shadowverse and its daily quest system is broken compared to something like Hearthstone. So yeah, that's pretty much the accountability section in a nutshell, is that I've just been playing Arkham City. Arkham City is not balanced right. It's the wrong gameplay mechanic for a Batman story. The wandering around and having an experience in the buildings, experiences, and having cutscenes and conversations with Batman characters works well, but the free flow button mashing combo system, which is just an outdated system, doesn't work. And the open world kind of gets a little laggy at times, and the engine's terrible. It only gets worse as far as the Arkham games. But the open world idea in itself falls apart fairly quickly, because it's just not what Batman does. Batman doesn't run around getting collectibles. Honestly, it would make more sense if it was a Flash game and you were running around Flash's city, which I think is called Central City.
Stop it.
Yeah, and you were just fighting all of Flash's rogues gallery, which arguably, while it may be less recognizable than the Joker, Flash's rogues gallery is more entertaining and more interesting characters. But yeah, everything has to be Batman with DC. Everything has to be Batman with Warner Brothers. And for a Batman game, you would expect it to be the thing that got, like, movies, directed to DVD, cartoons, all kinds of products and side projects to sell on top of what it already was offering. And it just totally doesn't have that.
Hunt has only begun.
We never really see the Poison Ivy of the Arkham world again, which is overly sexualized. We never see the Harley Quinn quite in the same outfit again as in the Arkham games, which is also over-sexualized, particularly when you compare it to the way Harley Quinn was dressed as an actual clown in the Batman animated series and how she was introduced. And then you never get to see Catwoman showing as much cleavage as you see her in Arkham City, which again, over-sexualized. Like every single female character in the Batman universe is overly sexualized, where the guys look terrible. Like, yeah, I hate to even come close to agreeing with Anita Sarkeesian, but when you really look at the Batman Arkham City and the way the models are made, there's definitely a difference in how the genders are treated. For that one specific game. Anita Sarkeesian's problem, in part, she's got plenty of them in my opinion, is that she then generalized a specific example to become an all-encompassing rule or trope that she was claiming was happening in most games or all games. And honestly, I would say it's not even the Arkham games that's the problem. It's Batman in general. Batman needs more of a rethink as to who the characters are and how the characters are depicted and what it really says about the attitudes of the creators of Batman. And I kind of would have to just assume that the creators of Batman, the writers, the animators, are that childish man-child type personality. Like, I kind of have to assume that that's the case, and it almost comes with the territory, because somebody who would want to draw Batman when they are in their mid-30s probably isn't the most mature, well-rounded person in the first place. In a funny way, when you look generally at like Kevin Smith's personality, and I'm not trying to dogpile Kevin Smith just because everybody's hating on him right now, but if you go back several years and have been following his career path, at a certain point he did just say he was going to start waking and baking and waking up every day and smoking marijuana and being lazy and just kind of doing ridiculous things. Obviously that's what he chose to do with his life and his career when you start to see movies like Tusk and such, that are literally jokes.
Closer to victory.
I'm very sorry you have to see this side of me.
And if there was any credibility or actual care for the art, after making a movie like Tusk, nobody would have ever hired Kevin Smith again to do any other project. Kevin Smith can do his own project certainly, but in a lot of ways he's just not going to take anything he does seriously or act maturely, particularly for his age. I imagine that same kind of attitude is fresh amongst the Batman creators.
Let us play together. I shall take the
I suppose it is worth mentioning that I did last time I stopped playing Arkham City. I was playing as Catwoman. Literally, you play as Catwoman for about, I'd say 20 minutes. The open world setting of the game does allow you to just waste a ridiculous amount of time running around the relatively small open world area, and that creates this distraction point where the actual storyline is just run from point A to point B, usually from one triangular corner of the map to another point on a equilateral triangle point of the map. And if you do that, it really would have been just 10 minutes playing as Catwoman. She did get some equipment, but her equipment seems to be fairly useless and isn't likely to be used very much. And once I got Catwoman to the point B, it just was a way too difficult fight, and I'm immediately realizing that I should have chosen easy on the game, and there's no way to adjust it. And for a brief second, I really did consider just restarting the whole game and just playing on easy, because they like to throw the generic goons at you, and the generic goons are just bullet sponges, although this is actually punching people instead of shooting people. But yeah, you have to just hit them over and over again, trying to get a combo, trying to get critical strikes with an awkwardly timed critical strike system, trying to get one character on the ground when nobody else is around so that you might be able to slam their head into the ground, and thus knock them out permanently.
I suppose I've lost some of my edge.
So yeah, the Catwoman fight basically was 3 levels. It literally was 3 levels, 3 different floors, and you get on each floor, you fight some people. When you defeat that group of people, you go up the next floor, there's even more people. And once that fight was done, I was back to playing as Batman, and I haven't moved the story forward anymore. I'm still not sure if it isn't going to be a situation where we eventually do have
The hunt has only begun.
the ability to just swap between Batman and Catwoman at the same time, or they're just playing together as kind of a co-op thing where the other character is just an AI. But it seems like either we're going to swap back a lot of times, or we're going to at some point become co-op, which honestly it wouldn't hurt in a Batman story to have somebody with Batman so he can talk or be forced to talk to somebody, because you need that dialogue. Otherwise you just have dark, brooding Batman. And even when you're talking to Alfred in Arkham City, Alfred comes off as just a complete jerk, which feels very out of character. It makes a lot of sense that Batman would be a jerk. We've seen that in plenty of other depictions of him, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense that
I won't let you get away.
Alfred would be a jerk, particularly to Bruce Wayne.
I suppose I've lost
And it does
some
seem
of my
very weird that
passion.
Robin is not there. at all.
I shall take the front.
Honestly, it might even have worked if there was just a new character introduced, like a Miss Marvel, some entry point for the player, somebody new. It could have been Vicky Vale, certainly. You could have just had a news reporter that Batman has to
You are done for.
take under his wing, or it could have been a Robin, which Robin would make more sense because then you don't have the problem of Vicky Vale not being able to move and glide like Batman.
Nothing yet.
Let's see. Is there anything I can do here? I mean, I can do this. I can do
All I
this.
need's an opening and you're toast.
I can evolve this for
This is the
free.
end.
Sorry, but the time for game. One helping of this
can
and it's
hit
99
this.
for you. Ugh. Got your message loud and clear.
And hit that.
That was a fine bout.
What do we have here?
Then
You
hit that.
wouldn't.
But yeah, it's not going anywhere very fast. Arkham City.
Give him an inch.
I'm way over budget at this point, so I'm gonna just try and resort to some e-begging here and see if this happens. At the moment, the Shadow of the Tomb Raider, the third game in the Tomb Raider reboot, is on sale for a decent amount of price, and it's gonna last about a week to sell. But if I could get someone to gift me the definitive edition of that, that would be greatly appreciated, because I would like to finish the Tomb Raider game. In a lot of ways, the Tomb Raider game, I feel like, is almost a better type of game than Arkham City. But then again, the first Tomb Raider game in the reboot gives Tomb Raider the ability to have guns, which Tomb Raider always had. Lara Croft always had guns, so that's not too odd. But that is a extra advantage over a Batman game where he can't use guns, which arguably he needs to just they need to either have no fighting gameplay mechanic, or they need to
I should have
just
foreseen
given
this.
him a tranquilizer gun or something, some electroshock gun,
Looks like I won.
because the enemies have guns certainly in Arkham City, and the guns are really powerful. And also, it seems like some areas in the open world are not areas you're supposed to actually be able to get close to, but they don't put any kind of like flags or anything. Like if there was a big old Joker flag on a building and that was your indication that this was a difficult place and everybody is armed to the teeth and you shouldn't go there yet, that's one thing. But in Arkham City, you really can just walk by a building and it's very possible somebody will start shooting at you because you got too close to some heavily fortified area. Also, the Tomb Raider
My
reboot
quarry won't
had
escape that
hunting,
easy.
which,
I guess you're looking for a fight.
yeah, I don't know how you put Batman in a forest situation. Does Batman work outside of Gotham? I don't think he really does. So the idea of hunting animals doesn't really work for Batman, although perhaps you could have a situation where you're having Batman hunt criminals. I'm still not sure if the open world city, the open world part of the game refills enemies even, or if it isn't literally a system where you're supposed to run around and just beat up everybody until the city becomes completely empty. Either one of those would be fairly believable.
The uncharted desert awaits.
Anyways, I don't think I want to go any further talking about Batman because it's just kind of, I've done nothing there, so there's nothing new to say.
What to you?
So I want to cover the video game news today, and as every day, like every stream, try and go as quickly as possible. Like most Fridays, I want to leave some games for Monday. And yeah, ideally have a shorter experience.
Woodland Fortress at 12 o'clock.
So let's start going through the news. Here we have a game on Steam called The Moonshot, The Great Espionage,
Looks like I'm up.
which some kind of stealth puzzle platformers. Well, it seems like it's a stealth puzzle game that wanted to call itself Moonshot, and thus they wrapped it around the idea of a fictional country faking the moon landing before America or Russia got there first. What's funny here, though, and this feels like a little bit of yellow journalism, is the other flag that's on the moon is China, which that wasn't the moon race, but oh no, that is a Russia flag. Okay, I saw that. $6.63. Put it on the follow list. China is the country, though, in all fairness, that I think did land on the moon. I don't think any other country has bothered to land on the moon. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to pause this recording and just, I guess I'll leave the stream going. Let's see, do we have an idle animation that still works? Yeah, I'll be back in, about 20 minutes, I think. Okay, I'm back. Let me just make sure WebPeak and everything works. Alright, we'll try that again. So yeah, sorry about that. I'm constantly in this situation where, like, either I can spend 2 hours feeling like I need to go to the bathroom and not really go, or I can start streaming and potentially just have to pause. And nowadays, to try to make any kind of progress at all, I've really just had to teach myself to just go and just start recording, and if a bathroom break must happen, it must happen. See if we got our timer still working. Yeah, the timer's a little bit off, but that's fine. Yeah, my timer screen on OBS is designed to be much bigger than the one that's built into OBS. There is a little timer at the very bottom of the screen, but I just recently, in the past week or two, found out that it was there. So either they added it in an update. No, we haven't even had an OBS update in probably a month or so. So it probably has been there the whole time, and it's just so small. And that's kind of the problem with a lot of the settings on OBS is you need that screen and you need that text to be fairly big if you're trying to do anything with it in any scenario where you're also the content creator. If it was just that there was someone else running OBS while the presenter was just looking into a camera, that's fine, because then you can have the monitor right in front of you. Even at that, the text is fairly small. But if you are trying to do everything as a one-man show,
Play together.
you need to be able to,
Seek what is not there.
well, at least the way I've set it up. Now, the way I imagine a lot of people would have had their setups, you need to be able to read things quickly at a glance. And it's
The uncharted desert awaits.
small text does not help with that. Anyways, let's continue on. We have a game on Steam here called Battlegrounds First Blast, which looks like it's a tank versus tank game on rails. Free to play, doesn't look particularly interesting. Maybe it's a demo for some other Battlegrounds game. Several languages, but yeah. Not impressive. Here we have a game called Kitsune Killer, which, I don't know what Kitsune stands for in Japanese. This looks to me like it's just a player versus player, kind of like Smash Brothers game, maybe with some mouse attacks and slashing through different platforms. It's $1.79, English and Russian. Let's see. Well, we could destroy that, or we could play this.
My domain reaches to the end of the skies.
Guess that's as good as we can go. I suppose I've never given any credence to the idea of a game that supports the language English and Russian and then having a very Asian Japanese style artwork to it. The idea of an argument for like cultural appropriation in video games, I just don't think would fly with me, because there's too much of, like, pretty much every game at some level is influenced by Japan, and they kind of were the creators of video games, more so than anyone else. And from what I hear, the Japanese culture seems to be fairly popular in Russia, so that seems like a very natural transition. Russians also would claim to be both European and Asian, and they would also, I think, accurately claim they have the biggest landmass ever, so I think you can't have it three different ways there. You probably are best describing Russians as Russians because of the large amount of landmass and cultural differences. Plus, I doubt China really considers Russians to be Asians, and Europeans don't consider. I seriously doubt Europeans consider Russians to be Europeans.
That was a fine bout.
But yeah, my main point there was I don't think I would ever make that argument. If I was to make that argument, then I'd have to make the exact same argument for every like visual novel that doesn't support Japanese, and say that that's cultural appropriation because the Japanese created visual novels too, and at that point it just becomes a slippery slope in which we say, well, every platformer is cultural appropriation because they made platforming games with Mario, Super Mario Brothers. Like, it would just never stop at that point. And yeah, I think when it particularly comes to art, the stealing, borrowing, and mixing of ideas is a good thing, not a bad thing.
My quarry won't escape that easy.
My
Here we have a game on Steam called Copper Odyssey, which looks like it's an RPG game of no real interest. The art looks a little bit different. This is one of those cases where it feels like a artist could draw these and put these in a gallery and probably get some acclaim and sell some drawings. But it just doesn't really feel like a consistent universe that's been established enough yet to make me think that this would be a good game. It honestly just feels like it's a kind of unique art style combined with a very generic JRPG gameplay style. $4.99, English, allegedly full audio. And I often worry if this isn't, when you see games like this, if this isn't just a case of people being desperate to be in video games when their art would probably stand out better otherwise in other places. Unfortunately, wow, I must have gone up a level on the battle pass. Like there really isn't a great platform for any kind of monetization or anything for artists. Like, you have websites like DeviantArt, or I think there's others that are newer than DeviantArt. That'd be the one I would be most familiar with, and that's the one that's mostly full of lewd adult content. But yeah, Patreon and things like that don't serve artists the best. In a funny way, being a small-time YouTuber with 1,000 followers and getting ad revenue still probably would make you more money than being an artist on any other website and having 1,000 followers. Art also takes a long time to art in general, whether it's art in the form of video games or art in the form of drawing, painting, whatever, it only really makes sense if you have a patron and a charter or a charter from a government. And that's the only way art has ever really worked, is you have to get money from the charity of others or be already existing rich. And I don't know if you could make a Steam for artists that would make any sense. What would... it probably wouldn't really be Steam so much, in which you were buying art for large amounts. It would almost certainly have to be something closer to a Spotify system, where you're paying a monthly subscription and you get to see as much art as possible, and for each view that gives some few pennies to the artists. But even Spotify's business model doesn't actually pay musicians. And music as an art form is one of the longer art forms. So yeah, I don't know if I know of a solution there. Like, my general solution would be universal basic income that allows artists to create artists for the love of the art no matter what, and not be literal starving artists otherwise. And then they can create on the desire to create only. Of course, this wouldn't be the first solution or instance where universal basic income would be my solution to a lot of problems. Moving on. I don't want to get into too many rants today. Here we have a game called Magic Manny. The amount of animations I've seen in this trailer is actually particularly high. It's a weird looking guy. Like, I don't know what you call this. Mutton chops with a line cut out beard, if that's really a style at all. And this game almost certainly is just a asset flip thing, but yeah, it definitely feels like they were trying to have some style, and maybe they ran out of steam after the first 5 minutes. They ran out of steam certainly with the logos and the thumbnails and the in the art. But yeah, when you look at this first section, it doesn't look terrible. But then you see this portal, and this portal looks pretty awful. Like it's placeholder image. But then you have this whole animation where he grabs this orb and snaps his fingers, and then it magically imbues his jeans. Yeah. Speaking of jeans, I saw a depiction of Red Robin where like he was in jeans instead of tight spandex for his bottom part of his outfit, and boy does that look better and make a lot more sense than every Robin depicted in Arkham City 3D models, which they have 3D models of Robin, so Robin must show up at some point. This game, Magic Manny, is 99 cents English only. They're calling it a magical RPG. But yeah, you just have this whole, a lot of animations going on here, but then it just turns into, you've got a bat and you're fighting skeletons. It does bring out an interesting question as to why have we not had more games where you play as some kind of wizard. Maybe that just is something writers don't want to do. I don't know, but you would think that would make a lot of sense. It's weird that the first game I think about that potentially has magic in it is BioShock, and those are called elixirs and they fall under certain rules. Suppose if you start talking about like Final Fantasy and RPG games that are fantasy games, you do have magic, and Skyrim has magic certainly. I guess what I'm more saying is it's strange that we don't see, here's a person in the modern world, in the real world with magic. Even Harry Potter is not really set in a modern real world environment. It's set in more of this almost Dickinson era, Christmas Carol era UK. Moving on, we got a game called Stolen Eggs, which looks like it's a top-down twin-stick shooter game of no interest. It may not even be a twin-stick shooter. Actually, it looks like you're just running around collecting the eggs and avoiding collisions. $2.99 English Russian. Nothing there of interest. Video Game Chronicles says Naraka Blade Point has been announced for consoles with a PS5 gameplay video. This is a 60-player battle royale action game that hits PCs this month and is coming to consoles soon. I believe Naraka is kind of like the Indian Hell or equivalent. So if it's 60 players, then it's basically just a smaller MMORPG game with more Indian style enemies, which doesn't make it look too different from your just like standard Chinese MMORPG. So you'd have to have a sharp eye on this and to really decide if there's much of a different experience there. Maybe it doesn't really matter that much. But yeah. Yeah, I really just trail off there in that sentence. I just can't care about it because it's a 60 game 60-player, player versus player experience. Although I do like the visuals and I do like the idea that we'd see more Indian mythology. I'd like to see that happen with a lot of smaller cultures in general. There's plenty of like plenty of Asian cultures that have barely had any of their cultures explored in the form of video games. There's plenty of African cultures. There's plenty of European cultures that still have something new to say. In fact, it would be easier to just list the countries that have been overplayed as far as cultural stories, and that would be mostly just Japan, China, I'd say Germany for the Brothers Grimm stories and just like Little Red Riding Hood and stories like that. The United States' culture, which is a relatively speaking young culture. Yep, those are pretty much the ones that have been overplayed the most.
You're through.
Video Game Chronicles says PS5's huge beta firmware is out, adding 3D audio without headphones and more. You can now also add the SSD expansion, new friends and trophy features, and customization options. I think the 3D audio is getting overlooked for the fact that you can now put any off-the-shelf M2 SSD. I believe it has to be an NVMe SSD, not a SATA via M2, which is a thing, I believe. That being said, the list of supported ones seem to be the more expensive, higher speed ones as far as SSDs, and I'm not sure if you have there's more things here, but I don't have a PlayStation, nor do I plan on having a PlayStation, so check out the article if you want to read this. I'm not sure if anybody legitimately should have their SSD, their internal hard drive full at this point. Like that seems a little weird if that was the case, because
The hunt has only begun.
you would have to be trying to fill up your hard drive. But it's probably not in totally crazy either, because I could imagine a situation where you've got 4 or 5 really big AAA games that you want to play, or at least you feel like you want to have installed and ready to play on your PlayStation 5. And that is certainly an interesting question as far as what is the top 5 games that you can't bother to uninstall from your PlayStation 5.
Pigs, where are you?
Are there top 5 top games that you would want to have ready to play at all times? But yeah, I could see that. And that is one of the things that we still have a kind of an issue with, is that there is a separation between, hey, are you one of the people that wants to have like 8 terabytes of data installed on your computer, ready to go and always available, or are you trying to have a console device that has been built to save money, so there's only, say, 512 gigabytes, half of a terabyte worth of space. And I would argue that this current generation of new consoles very possibly did go a little cheap.
Thus, the world ends.
And by going a little cheap, they have decided that that's the way to limit the player and push people to potentially buy the next generation of console. We also are seeing, as NVMe is getting a new version, the new version will support spinning hard drives once again. So we will see a point, I think, where there will be some form of M2 connector that is just a wire or a circuit board that plugs into a hard drive in a regular 3.5 inch or 2.5 inch drive bay. And that'll certainly be weird looking. Of course, we might also see like hybrids where there's something that looks like an M2 stick that has some RAM cache in it, and then from the back of that comes out a connector that looks like a SATA connector but holds a new standard.
My quarry
I also
was
wouldn't be
escaped,
surprised
Maddie.
if it is just SATA connectors again. Like, that would make sense, is to just have NVMe over SATA connectors. Yep. Moving on, Outer Wilds is officially getting an expansion this year called Echoes of Eyes, according to Video Game Chronicles. A new FIFA 22 gameplay trailer and devlog list over 40 improvements. So if you're into FIFA, check out this Video Game Chronicles article. See, Koihime Inbu Ryo Raira DLC characters Joko Kome and Kakuka Hoko is now available for the PS4. Version 3 changes implemented as a free update. So here you've got some anime girl ninjas in bikinis, one of them. Let's see, apparently these guys were on the Steam version already. What kind of game is this though? It's a fighting game. Interesting. This is a long title for fighting game, so it's kind of surprising I don't recognize it. I do recognize this, well, in all fairness, I've seen a ninja girl in a bikini several times in several different versions, so I feel like I recognize this character, but I could also very much not recognize that character because it could just be that there's several of them like that. Speaking of loot outfits, the remake of the Wii U Fatal Frame Maiden of the Black Water, it had in the Japanese version 2 outfits that were basically bikinis, and well, yeah, very revealing, and they were bikinis. I don't know why I said basically there. And in the Wii U version in the West, they were replaced with a Metroid Samus suit, Nintendo exclusive type thing. Obviously, the Nintendo exclusive concept here would not come to other consoles, so you would assume that they would go back to the bikini outfits and bring them back. But instead, they've just decided to censor both the Japanese and the Western release in this new remake by removing basically all 4 of those outfits, is what they've announced. And then at a certain point, this puts me in a weird position because I think I've made it fairly clear I hate censorship and stand against censorship in all of its forms almost always. Like, I might be convinced to embrace some small censorship for some very specific reasons, but I've yet to hear really good arguments that that convinced me of that. But this is one of those instances where the artistic desire and the theming of Fatal Frame is for it to be a Japanese horror game. So it was off tone and off-putting, certainly, to have the character that's being attacked by ghosts and should be afraid running around in bikinis in the first place. So it creates this situation, whereas if those bikini outfits had never existed, I'd be like, that's fine, there's no need or demand to have the characters in bikini outfits. But once the artists create it, even if they felt that they were pressured to create these outfits because by some outside force, and they felt at the time it compromised their artistic vision, once it's out there, once it's in the public eye, you can't undo that thought, I don't think. And that's kind of the problem, or at least the difference with video games versus director cuts in the movie. Like, I would say, if a director cut of a movie wants to cut out an element that they didn't like, that's fine, because the original cut of the version is still there, and there's less interactivity and less ownership that a player, a viewer of a movie has compared to a player of a video game. But for video games, I think you pretty much should just re-release it. And undoubtedly there will be some mod that puts those outfits back in, and maybe they'll be at a lower resolution, but yeah. And certainly that gets back down to just the increased level of censorship, and more we are seeing examples of characters of Japanese games being censored even in Japan because of the influence of extremely SJW conservative. In a weird way, the SJWs who think of themselves as being the extreme liberals have become conservative when it comes to artist rights and lewd depictions. So yeah, that influence is seemingly being spread more, not less, and that doesn't set a good precedent. Like, you only have to really look at the influence that SJWs have done with the comic book industry, which, sure, at one point the comic book industry was a nearly dead industry. Well, frankly, it's been at that point multiple times. But as a nearly dead industry, the artists could do whatever they wanted. Now, it is a nearly dead industry where the artists can't do what they want. So, yeah, that didn't help things. Here is that game, Kohime Inbu Ryo Rai Rai. It is samurai girls and ninja girls in a fighting game. Several of them are in kind of scantily clad outfits. I'm not sure if these characters are supposed to represent famous samurai or anything like that, or a famous fighting stance. See, it came out July 12th, 2018. It's rated very positively with 87 people, 87 reviews. So not a really big review, and even if you're to buy the version 3 bundle, you're only paying $20 Japanese full audio. So, yeah, I guess this is a game that I put on my wish list. Of course, it definitely creates a weird situation where, why would I specifically pick this? Why specifically pick this fighting game as a fighting game to cover compared to something way more relevant and big and well known? Of course, I could certainly see a reason besides just the anime lewd outfits, in that might be my entryway that causes it to be more interesting, and covering lesser known fighting games probably gets me more of an interesting amount of content than, say, playing just Street Fighter or something that everybody else has already covered and played. Plus, it would be incredibly cheaper to pay $20 and play that game than it would be to pay $60 to $100 and play some of the other bigger fighting games. Fighting games might very well be the category of games where being in the indie leagues is better than being in the professional leagues.
I present you a gift for my lord. No one's getting
Kind of like how WWE wrestling is often less interesting to watch than a independent circuit of wrestling, because it's just become over monetized and over sanitized. Moving on, Gamatsu says every day's today's menu for Emiya Family DLC Lancer Scenario Pack has been announced. So this is the cooking game with the characters from the Fate series, which it's still insane that there's Fate series.
The flame lights never back down.
So much Fate series content. There aren't that many Fate series games though, so it's not a big deal for a video game critic as much as it is a big deal for anime fans and anime reviewers. See, for a game called Yoru Kill, the Culmination Games, I think that's Culmination, is that word, has been delayed to spring of 2022, and an official website has been opened. This is the first I've even heard of this game that I recall. It's a shoot 'em up game, so I may have seen it before and just immediately ignored it. Doesn't look terrible, doesn't look amazingly great. I saw there was a lot of stories today of things being delayed, so I imagine what it feels like is happening now is we're getting individual companies having individualized press events to announce things, and when those individual press events happen to announce things, that then reduces the odds of a game actually coming out when it is supposed to come out.
That was a fine bout.
The hunt has only begun.
So sparkly.
So this would do 3 damage to everything.
I suppose I've lost some of my edge.
But if I could get this on the field and then this on the field,
Nice marksmanship.
but I can't. Not before I die. Yeah. So it definitely does feel like that we're gonna either have to have game publishers and developers that become way less gun shy of competing against other people, or we're gonna see just an increasing amount of games that just get delayed and pushed and delayed and pushed.
My quarry won't escape that easy.
That being said, the games probably should be delayed and pushed, because I'm also seeing, on top of this, a instance in which a lot of games are coming out and they are buggy and they need more day one patches than what we've been seeing somewhat recently. Like it's been a growing trend over many years that games have needed day one patches to actually be playable, but we're now hitting a point where even with the day one patches, they're still buggy and they're needing, for lack of a better term, day two patches and day three patches to fix bugs. Gematsu also has the software beta version rolling out. See, and this is the slot, the M2 slot for the PlayStation 4, so you really can't squeeze anything other than a standard NVMe M2 stick. It does have the different sizes, which each one of these holes represents where you would screw in a metal peg, and that metal peg then has another thread in it for a small screw, and you would hook up the connector to a point here that's all blurry and you can't even see it. It almost looks like there would be some kind of connectors here on the side, but there isn't. And the Steam Deck is, I believe, using this smallest closest hole size, which is very rare to see an M2 stick that way. Almost everybody would use the 80mm, and there's really enough room here where you could potentially make a custom size up to something like 100mm. But what you can't do here is run a cord out through here to any kind of hard drive, but I think you could definitely connect a hard drive via the USB 3, which would not be as fast. I think at this point external SATA also has been just abandoned as a connector or standard. It was poorly embraced. Thunderbolt, there might be a Thunderbolt port on the Sony PlayStation. That would be a potentially good connector to use for an external hard drive, but you're also going to pay that premium for that. But yeah, Thunderbolt would be the right move. Okay.
Woodland Fortress at 12 o'clock. Hey, let's play. There's a chance for a grand slam. How fun!
Shutting down.
I think it probably would be a little unfair to not point out while I'm scrolling down this Gematsu article.
100% string and 0%
It's a little unfair to not point out that Sony has been fairly delayed on putting out these features. I know the PlayStation 5 has been like in high demand and not that many people even have gotten the PlayStation 5, but their launch has just been pretty terrible, and I can't blame it 100% on the pandemic or the chip shortage or anything like that. They clearly did not have everything lined up and ready to go with the launch of the PlayStation 5. And if they told me, if they had just announced the PlayStation 5 like this Black Friday, it would be a much better first year of an experience, certainly. And in a lot of ways, it feels like Microsoft rushed to beat PlayStation, and then PlayStation rushed to beat Microsoft, and in the end, it was the consumers who suffered the most because neither products are as polished as well as they should be. It's not incredibly difficult to get an Xbox Series S or Series X, but the upgrades there could have been a little bit better. I could have seen a scenario where if they had just kind of called the truce and not released anything until this Black Friday, and then if they had considered the pandemic and decided not to even release anything then, that would have been fine with me. It's not like Nintendo's going to catch up and come out with a Switch Pro that blows even the Xbox Series 1 or the PlayStation 4 out of the water. I'll be surprised if a Switch Pro ever comes out and is even close to the quality of the PlayStation 4. This. And then this. And then guess we'll just end the turn. Moving on, Crimson Desert has been delayed to an unannounced date according to Kimetsu. This is yet another game I just don't recognize. So crazy. Katari Fables gameplay trailer and release date has been moved up one day, so it's now due out September 2nd. I don't know why you'd move it up one day. That seems like a lot of press and releases to put out to just have it come out one day early. This game looks interesting enough for a kid's game. It doesn't look bad. It is right on the line of feeling like maybe this was cell phone graphics, but then it feels polished enough that it's getting closer to something that looks fine on the Switch. It is coming out on Steam, so let's see if we have it on the follow list. Not yet, but we'll put it on the follow list. Katari Fables. The only real thing is it is a game that feels like it's Stardew Valley-esque, and I'm still not really in the mood to play something that's Stardew Valley-esque.
There you are, my little trespasser.
And
What
hit.
an oath! Did I do okay?
And in the turn. The game Dollhouse is coming to Switch in October. It's currently available for PlayStation and PC. That being said, I don't believe Dollhouse was well received. Yeah, you can see it was mixed as a horror game. It looked interesting, certainly, but yeah, it didn't go anywhere. 55% of 96 user views. So yeah, unless this was just a game that was reviewed poorly because of performance issues. Here you have game is completely broken. So if it were a performance issue thing and they could put out a patch for Steam and PC also, then maybe that could convince enough people to come and play the game again and get the reviews up higher, but I think they've probably blown their shot to ever actually catch the interest of an audience. And certainly this is kind of the problem that we run into with games a lot, is that they come out bad, they get poorly reviewed on Steam, and then they try to make a few more bucks just by launching on Switch as shovelware. Because there is just a slightly more desperate audience on the Switch looking for games.
Do not seek what is not there.
There is definitely an issue, certainly, with the amount of playtime the average Switch player probably plays versus the amount of playtime the average PlayStation player or Xbox player or even PC player plays, because I imagine you have that force of kids being limited with their screen time, which is pretty much the standard way in parenting these days. Is you don't just let your kid play non-stop video games for 12 hours after school every day and stay up till 2 or 3 in the morning, which in all fairness is pretty much what I did in a lot of cases, is that I would play tons and tons of games and during school days. But in all fairness, I don't think any of that actually affected my grades in any way, because either I already knew the answers to the questions, tests, and assignments, or I wasn't ever going to do the assignments in the first place, depending on my whim at that point, or whether I was interested in it. Yeah, I don't think I personally was ever in a situation where I was ever actually going to do any homework. I never had any homework at all. And honestly, there's a bigger argument to be made that homework is an intrusion upon a kid's life that's unfair and unrealistic. You should not be teaching kids that it's acceptable for their bosses, because that's what schooling is. It's a representation of what you're going to do in your life as a job. If your boss is sending you home with homework and you're working a job like that, that's not acceptable. Particularly not if you're being paid hourly. It might be slightly more acceptable if you were being paid on a good salary pay level. And homework is not something parents like, because then the parents get forced into being the teachers and doing the teacher's job, which that really smacks in the face of the idea that teachers should be more respected and paid better if specific teachers aren't actually accomplishing their job during school hours and forcing it on to somebody else. But yeah, that's a rant that branched off of the point that I was originally trying to make, is that this kind of shovelware games like Dollhouse, which I assume is just going to be shovelware, probably doesn't sell as well as people think it would. But it does seem like it sells well enough, because people keep doing it, and if anything, people sing the praises of porting their mediocre to bad games on the Switch. And it really would just come down to whether the Switch in the Nintendo platform wants to be a closed walled garden, or whether it wants to be a more open venue that allows everything in it. Right now it's in a weird mushy middle.
Uncharted desert awaits.
Moving on, Gametsu has the Blue Reflection Second Light launching November 9th in the West. This is one of like 2 or 3 all-girl RPG games. Is this the one in the post-apocalypse? I don't think it is. It's like these girls go into this virtual world and do RPG things. And yeah, it's summertime, so every game from Japan is coming with pre-order bonuses or special DLC of bikinis. So, yeah, that still is very much a standard fare.
What do we have here?
What's this strange reading?
So, yep. That being said, I would also say a game like Blue Reflection, which is just an RPG fantasy game, and the characters in their RPG fantasy outfits are already showing a little bit of skin, a bikini
magic
makes a lot more sense than it does in a horror game. Okay. If I play this first, I can still play this.
Cheers for a grand slam!
And then
Well, that could have been
we can hit
improved.
that. Moving on, Komatsu says a new Pokemon Snap free content update launches August 3rd. Adds new areas and Pokemon,
Farewell, Iolan.
which is good because that will be something you would want to keep an eye on. Is
You're done for.
Pokemon Snap's history has one previous
Get used to
Pokemon
this, Rain.
Snap game and then it being forgotten about for many years. You would like a little bit more support.
Delta Cannon, fire.
But I imagine what you really would want to see is a announcement in a few years of a Pokemon Snap 2, more
This
than
world is
just
filled with mystery.
one piece of DLC and then maybe never seeing Pokemon Snap happen again. That being said, Pokemon Snap didn't really get a lot of coverage, so, and we haven't heard any announcement of large sales numbers around Pokemon Snap. Meanwhile, they also have like Pokemon Unity and several other Pokemon Go and several other Pokemon themed games that are very possibly cannibalizing the audience there with just too many Pokemon things at a time. This is not the early days of the Pokemon fandom in which people would be willing to just buy anything and everything Pokemon.
Nothing yet.
Right.
Son of a gun, ain't ya?
Moving on, we have a game called Connect Tank, launching September 28th. It's a multiplayer tank battle and puzzle game. Do we have a trailer to watch here? Skip around. I'm not particularly enthusiastic about these graphics, but maybe there's something here that would work. This is definitely one of those games that I'd have to see some reviews for. It seems like it's really more like a Factorio game where you're just trying to power a tank or cannon, not a tank. So you're like running the tank from the inside, from the looks of it.
Don't hurt me. A glorious flower.
We already talked about this. No Arkham Blade Point coming to consoles, including the PlayStation 5. That's the only one they've actually announced, I think.
Ends here.
King's Bounding 2 has a gameplay trailer. It's due out August 24th, according to Komatsu,
We have a case.
which
How fun
looks
it
to
is
me
converse.
to be a real-time strategy game with maybe an in-city feature with some cutscenes.
Stop it.
That might make it slightly more interesting. Okay. Let's do this.
Let's play.
Hit that,
Yeah,
and hit that,
I never get a chance to speak.
and hit that, and hit that.
You crusty horseshoe.
Let's see. Gametsu says Thunderful is going to publish a game called Velocity, which is the spiritual successor, third-person combat game
Nothing stops me once I got my
by
speedy
Future
boots on.
Lab. Now, I guess the game isn't called Velocity, it's the spiritual successor of a game called Velocity.
You're done for.
I always catch the
That being
vines.
said, I don't
Eventually.
know the game Velocity, so this isn't useful information to me. It's supposed to be far more ambitious, have more style and contemporary relevance, which that's a loaded phrase, contemporary relevance. How are we on missions? Like, we literally get one Forestcraft victory and we'll get almost everything done, and then one Swordcraft victory on top of that, and that would be the one remaining daily quest. Let's see. Skatebird has been delayed to September 16th, no longer coming out August 12th. Yep. These month-long delays seem kind of ridiculous. Marvel Avengers expansion pack, Black Panther War for Wakanda, launches August 17th, which this probably will be a lot of evidence of just really disappointing return in interest in the Marvel Avengers game, or disappointing in waned interest in the Black Panther series in general. Which, in all fairness, like, I don't know how you keep that beaverdom high with the Black Panther Marvel movie coming out and a lot of people really liking it, and it coming out, I think, in a particularly dry spot of lesser Marvel movies, but they didn't really see it coming, clearly, otherwise they would have had a Black Panther cartoon ready to go, or Black Panther comics ready to go, something to bring in that new audience. And of course they didn't really have an adjustment for the fact that the main actor, I think, had cancer and was dying as they were filming. So they have lost their main actor in the live action series. So when the next Black Panther movie comes out, I imagine a lot of that fandom will come back, but in any other form of media, they've it's not going to get a lot of people's attention, I don't think. And that's been the problem with the Marvel movies in general, is that there has been zero interest whatsoever of coming out with comic books or animated series that really integrate that fandom or bring on new fans to different media. I don't even think there was like a movie soundtrack of Black Panther that sold particularly well, which that would have been very wise to say, hey, here's the Black Panther soundtrack, here's a selection of music that we think fit with Black Panther well, that actually weren't in the movie. There's not even like a lot of licensing and products that showed up. You don't see little kids running around with Wakanda Black Panther shoes or t-shirts or anything like that. And that's another thing about Arkham City, is that Arkham City's depiction of Batman does not work well with like the younger kid DC shows, the Teen Titans Go and the Teen Titans shows, or anything close to that. Yeah. So when you see like DC super heroines and it's all the DC characters, like that character doesn't really connect. Well, and it's the same even for like the CW shows, like the CW Supergirl and Flash and all of those shows don't feel in line. And then there was a CW Batwoman show that just doesn't feel in line with any of the other forms of the Batman series or the DC universe. They have no consistent universe at all. Which that should have been step one. Is they needed to assign somebody to be in charge of the general tone and feeling of the DC universe throughout all media. Somebody to just keep everybody on track and on board. And they failed kind of miserably at that. And I would say even Marvel's not the greatest at that, because I don't think the Marvel comics have succeeded in being in the same feel as the Marvel movies.
Got your message loud and clear.
Like, arguably, I would say Disney has done a somewhat decent job about keeping the Star Wars universe all in the same feeling, but unfortunately that theme and feeling for the Star Wars universe is that half the movies will be bad and disappointing and half the movies will be good. But honestly, that very well is what was established by George Lucas himself, is that of the first 6 movies in the Star Wars universe, 3 of them are not well received. And arguably, even when there was only the first 3 movies chronologically released, some of those movies were not received as well. If anything, the Star Wars movies seem to age slightly better with time as the bar gets lowered with every new release.
There you are, my little trespasser.
I will rise again.
There was an Annapurna Interactive showcase that happened. That's where a lot of these announcements happened. I suppose I could hit play here and we could go through this 51-minute video to see what's getting announced. Looks like there were a lot of things I don't recognize, but
No one's getting you.
honestly, we probably don't need to this. Oh yeah, this cat game. They're still making the game where you play as a cat. Annapurna Interactive having their own special showcase is a little presumptuous in my opinion.
The real battle begins.
I think like that they should maybe be a little bit more conservative and not try and announce
Nice marksmanship.
announce like 5 or 6 different games that they're working on. If anything, I would much more expect there to be an Embracer Group expansion announcements, and maybe Embracer Group owns Annapurna Interactive. I don't think they do, but like THQ Nordic, Embracer Group, that's a company that has acquired a lot of companies. In fact, they've acquired too many companies for the small amount of games they've announced. But they would be big enough to deserve their own presentation, whereas Annapurna Interactive should probably be more on the level of simply announcing one game when it's close to release at a time. Moving on, The Artful Escape launches September 9th for the PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series. This is, I believe, we can look at it on Steam. I think this is a music game. Alright, yeah. I feel like this is a game that we saw announced almost 2 or 3 years ago. And it's one of those examples of just how games can be announced and then not really have an announced date and be delayed. Like we can see on Steam here, it just says it's coming out in 2021. English full audio. Yep. It's tagged as an action adventure game, psychedelic. I imagine this might be one of those games that gets highly critically reviewed and then immediately people stop talking about it after the week it comes out. Which more and more I still am running into that case where it really, I feel increasingly foolish for when I play a game because I saw mainstream video game journalists hype it up. Whereas I really don't even have an audience of real gamers other than reviews on Steam to tell me if people are actually playing this game or have any enthusiasm. I suppose if I was going to school or working a job with other gamers and had a group of gamer friends, or if I was on some kind of, like, you can't even be on a gamer like Facebook page or a forum or anything. There's just far too high of a chance of shills or just not really knowing those people, and it's always a question about how well you can know somebody, but there is always this high feeling that somebody could have completely different perspective on life, and what they're looking for games is completely different from what you're looking for in games. I wouldn't want to get on a Halo like Facebook group where it's just a bunch of gamer bros that are just talking about Call of Duty and Halo nonstop. That would not be the same audience as me.
Are those apples?
I imagine the newer generation of kids these days do talk about video games a lot more, and amongst their groups of friends there's a lot more commonality and peer pressure, whereas when I was younger my groups of friends that would talk about games were very small, and frankly they could be obsessed about one game and push me to play a game that I definitely wouldn't have considered playing otherwise.
All I need's an opening and you're toast.
Hey, let's play.
Yep. If we are to look at Annapurna Interactive on Steam, this will tell us as far as what upcoming releases. We have that game that was shown like 4 or 5 years ago, 12 minutes. We have Artful Escape. We have a game called A Memoir Blue. We have The Pathless, which I thought that had already come out or something like that. We have the game Open Roads, which I don't even know if they covered that. You have the cat game Stray, which was announced several years ago. We have Hindsight. We have Skin Deep, which is available in the future and seems to have no thumbnails at all. You have this neon white looking Japanese visual novel. They're calling it a platformer shooter. You have Storyteller. That's a lot of games, certainly for one publisher. Meanwhile, if you really look at what they've published, you have like McKay here, which is mixed, interesting. You have Last Stop, which kind of just came out. I Am Dead, I guess, is already out. Should be consider that. Unfinished Swan, which this was another game that was highly critically reviewed, but I guess it's also well received from reviewers on Steam. Outer Wilds, Journey, which I'd like to play that. I'd just like to not pay a massive amount of money to pay it. We also have If Found, Florence, Unfinished One again. Interesting that there's 2 listings of it.
What is not there?
Yeah, this whole page is glitched. It's the first time I've ever seen Steam do that. Telling Lies, which is mixed. Donut County, which I got that. Gorgoa, What Remains of Edith Finch. So, yeah, it's a collection of games. It's a lot of games. Not all of them particularly the greatest.
Mankind's hatred is a curse.
I could have done that, then that. I screwed up.
A fitting end. Hey, let's
If
play.
I'd played this card, then this card, then this card, I would have summoned 2 of those cards instead of 1. So what I want to check here is why did I not put I Am Dead on the wish list or the follow list? Puzzle adventure game. I guess I just overlooked it. I mean, it doesn't look incredibly crazy. Maybe I thought the price was too high at $19.99, which that definitely seems like a possibility too, but when you've got like 100% in the last 30 days and 88% in general, I think that should be on the wish list. So here's that game Neon White from Gamatsu. Creator discusses the gameplay and other features. So let's see if we can skip through this gameplay. These are not Neon White. So it seems like you're playing as kind of Japanese Oni demons or people in an afterlife. But the actual game seems to be a little bit more just platforming with an odd card mechanic, which I'm not sure if that's really going to work. This feels like one of those games that is either a puzzle game trying to make it look like it's a platforming game with the cool visuals, or it's a game that just is desperately going to need to change how it actually plays in the development of it. Like, from the feeling of it, it just doesn't feel like that is a good combination of gameplay mechanics using cards and to trigger sword or gun abilities on top of platforming. Cards are typically a slow action, whereas platforming is a very high, fast action. Still struggling to get that one victory. Okay, I should also mention my favorite lewd cell phone game, Destiny Child, came out with a new update. It has a whole new fighting thing called Endless Battles that puts 15 characters against 15 characters instead of 5 characters against 5 characters, or more accurately, it puts 5 characters fighting at a time with 10 other characters as backups once the character falls. The characters seem to be fairly buffed up so that you would only really want to play attacker class characters, because healing and defense class characters seem to not really do much. There's 3 different leagues for how far you are into leveling up your characters, but that's about it. What's interesting about it, other than the fact that it adds yet another thing to waste your time as far as doing your dailies on Destiny Child, is it really punishes people who have not been like preparing to own every single card in the game, every single character in the game. It's a gacha game, so you would have been playing wrong at any point to try and get rid of specific characters just to free up room in your limited inventory. But for someone like me who's been holding on to 1 copy of every character since the beginning, and I've been expanding my inventory as far as the number of characters I can hold so I can do that, I was very ready to go. Not getting anywhere into like the top 100 or anything good like that, but yeah, I think I'll get fairly well rewarded. But it doesn't seem like Endless Battles reward you as well as the Devil Rumble battles that already existed, because there's a whole second currency, which for Destiny Child would have been about the 4th or 5th currency, that let you buy items with that currency, and you got that currency for doing the Devil Rumble challenges. So Devil Rumble is a more standard player versus player experience, where Endless Battles is more of a almost something like auto chess, I would say, but probably not quite that. It's a more varied player versus player experience, and there's now 2 player versus player experiences on top of a whole bunch of player versus event single player experiences. But yeah, it is still churning on, and they introduced another character who is basically topless on the front screen called Clotho, which honestly, it's basically the exact same body model, except for now it's rotated 90 degrees, so you're seeing side boob instead of full-on boob with heart-shaped pasties. So they're kind of doing the same gimmick twice in a row, which is a little bit much. And frankly, both of those characters, particularly with Clotho being on the side and seeing the side boob, they've got the anatomy way wrong here. You've got a character that is like triple G sized breasts that are barely even attaching to the rest of her chest. They're just way too big, like giant torpedoes, comically large. And yeah, that's happened a few other times where we've seen animators for Destiny Child just being bad at drawing hands or drawing anatomy in general. But they generally turn out to be pretty good. Bad at drawing feet. Hands and feet are very difficult to draw for most artists. Anyways, talking back to video game, Gamatsu says the interactive poem game A Memoir Blue has been announced for PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, PC, and iOS. It's due out October 12th. Yeah, you have kind of a realistic depiction of a lady and then a cartoony chibi-like depiction. I don't know if you'd really call that chibi. Interactive poem. There was a game that was kind of this ballet experience that came out several years ago, and people talked about it and then people kind of forgot about it. I would half expect what you're going to do is you're going to see these more cartoony depictions 90% of the time, because those are just easier to make than the 3D versions. But I also wouldn't be surprised if that's not even the case anymore, and it's harder to draw something like this than it is to buy a pre-rendered 3D asset of this. Guess we'll just
The hunt has
do
only
this.
begun.
End their suffering. Wither.
Stay away! You wouldn't! Hey, let's play!
There's yet another Annapurna interactive game coming out. Which, yeah. Just don't know what they're thinking. They're literally just going to flood the market with their own products over the course of the next year or two.
Wither.
This guy stopped playing, so I got a victory there, which is good. And then Gamatsu has a reactive puzzle game called Storyteller announced for Switch and PC. PC demo is out now. Well, look at this reveal trailer. I'm not even bothered to click on the Steam link. Is it literally just a drag and drop interface? I guess that's what it is. Well, there might be something to that idea. A kind of drag and drop solve this puzzles. It's probably fairly limited. Here we got everything, and we've got some new cards. Steel Blader. So we must have leveled up again in our level. Why is the battle pass all of a sudden giving me a ton of experience? Yeah, let's go over here and check that out, because that seems weird. Your battle pass is at level 30. By purchasing a premium pass, you can unlock the following rewards. This guy, 3 card packs, bunch of gold, a ticket, and 3 more packs of a future card update. So this is a new ad thing they're doing. So I wonder if they've changed the balance now as far as just how much experience you need to go up to battle pass levels. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they did. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a very smaller percentage of players who are willing to actually purchase the battle passes, because they come far too often. Let's see, and unless the battle pass is about to end, which, nope, it ends September 27th. It seems like I'd fairly easily get to this point. Probably make it to this point. I could see 45, I could see 50. Would I get up to 60 or 70? The rewards kind of stop being that interesting after about 50. Yeah, it's kind of all gravy after about level 50. And then you're barely getting anything for going up a level between the difference between 91 and 92. But if you can make it all the way to 100, you get the Seer's Globe, the true Seer's Globe. Yeah. Let's try and get a Swordcraft victory next, and then might be able to do the single player stuff.
2 arms! There's a battle underway!
I seriously couldn't see myself buying the battle pass ever, though. Like, there is this possibility with the whole Activision Blizzard thing, and there's really nothing new to report there, and there won't be, I think, for a while. But there is a possibility, a scenario where Ben Brode, the creator of Hearthstone, who went on to make Second Dinner, gets caught up in the accusations. I mean, it really could just be a poop storm all over the place as far as just how many Activision Blizzard managers and employees get accused and or are legitimately proven to be guilty of bad behavior, to the point where maybe I wouldn't want to do business with Ben Brode in Second Dinner. On the other hand, it would also explain why Second Dinner has not tried to bring over a ton of Activision Blizzard employees. Like, you would have thought a lot more would have jumped ship and gone and worked for him. But yeah, if he did get caught up in that to the point where I wouldn't want to play the new Marvel collectible card game when it comes out, and nobody else really wants to play the Marvel collectible card games when it comes out, which that would definitely be a consideration, is if all of a sudden Marvel's not popular enough to even justify jumping over to that game, which is also a possibility. I still don't think at that point I would double down in Shadowverse. I think what I'd probably want to do is think about going to a Yu-Gi-Oh, like the newer Yu-Gi-Oh game. Give that a try, and I know the newer Yu-Gi-Oh game would be full of microtransactions.
Don't fall out of line.
That one.
Feel the emptiness.
Oh, that's how you
That
use
one.
Everyone needs an afterlife plan.
And then return. Continuing with the news, Gematsu says Solo Ash launches October 26th. It's a new game from the Hyper Light Drifter developer. The problem I would say with that is, having just played Hyper Light Drifter, I don't know if I really want to play another game from that designer. Hyper Light Drifter was super difficult, and yeah, I just don't know if it was that great of a game.
Welcome back to the land of the living.
I feel like I've seen a game like this with the riding on the rails and shooting while you're running on rails. One of the things about Hyper Light Drifter is you really weren't drifting as much as you really would think you would. Yeah, either I've seen another game very similar to this, or I've seen other teasers for this. And yeah, I'd have to just consider whether I think there's enough there. If we do this,
My allies, my
Only
friends.
day for a fight.
I can't do that, can I?
My place is on the front line. To battle, comrades!
Yeah,
Like
I
that.
love this stuff. Of course I do.
And then evolve this, I
One
guess.
step closer to victory.
Keep your comrades close. Nothing scary with allies by your
Everyone
side.
needs an afterlife
Don't fall
plan.
out of line.
Time to retreat.
See, like pretty much all the news today is around this announcement. Stray adds a PlayStation 4 version and launches in early 2022. This is the cat. I think it's in a post-human world where it's just robots otherwise, which seems a little weird. Play as a cat in general, but a cat in a post-apocalyptic world seems also weird. I guess the question is, are there rodents, or if there aren't rodents, what is the cat eating?
Welcome back to the land of the living.
I guess Annapurna Interactive gets all the news cycle for today because of all these announcements. I'll grant you that, but
Have faith.
I don't know if that's a useful thing.
This is our last push.
Victory in sight. Just as planned.
Cave in.
Let's see. A game called Skin Deep has gameplay trailers and screenshots, according to Gametsu.
This here's the shady part of town.
Let's jump through this one. Seems like it kind of just looks like an acid flip first-person shooter game. Almost feels like a roguelike game. It's kind of like rogue first-person shooter experience. Starship set first-person shooters, what's described as. Do this.
Is it edible? Only one way to find out.
I guess this. We're gonna lose. If we had made it one more turn, we probably would have been able to turn the tables, but maybe not. And then Gametsu has Outer Wilds expansion Echoes of Eyes. I don't think there's gonna be. Oh, there is a trailer. Interesting. Wasn't expecting a trailer. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's showing you too much. And I'd have to do more research to even figure out what Outer Wilds is as a game. Because there's so many different games that it possibly could be, and I just don't remember. Let's see. The game The Pathless for PC is coming to Steam on November 16th. It's currently available via the Epic Games Store. So it did come out. I thought this game had come out.
Mother, father,
It's from the creators of Abzu. So yeah. The Epic Games Store doesn't have any reviews, so it's kind of pointless to ever click on a link for the Epic Games Store. And going to the Steam store probably wouldn't allow it to have any reviews because it's not out yet. So you really still don't know, even potentially 6 months to a year after a game is on PC, whether or not it's well received or not, if you make it an Epic Store exclusive. Of course, that can all change day one that it comes out on Steam, because people could review it having played it on the Epic Games Store if they wanted to. I don't know if they would want to. What Remained of Edith Finch is coming to iOS on August 16th, which I feel like this is probably a bad screenshot for What Remains of Edith Finch. And I'm not sure that porting this game to iOS is kind of like the best port you've ever thought of. When you know it is a game that is a fairly high resolution walking simulator. That seems a little weird. $19.99 on Steam right now. It's only gone down to $6.99 3 times. I'm kind of glad we didn't see a large collection of walking simulators become like the new standard. It definitely felt like for a brief second there we might start to see walking simulators coming out every couple of months and demanding the money and the attention of people who would otherwise never play a walking simulator just because of the higher quality and the better reception. That being said, games like The Vanishing of Ethan Carter and What Remains of Ethan Finch might very well have just been mainstream video game journalists' critical darling games that got just way too much coverage in the first place. Let's see. Moving on, I Am Dead is coming to the PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, and Xbox One on August 9th. A lot of these announcements are just ports, which it feels like probably should have focused on your new games and announcements in this presentation and then announce the ports later. Like you could, Interpreneur Interactive could have had something new to say every month of the year going forward if they had broken up these announcements. Let's see, apparently they're going to publish new games by Outer Loop Games, JSIC, Mac, Ivy Road, and No Code, Jessica Mac. I don't recognize any of these games. Outer Loop Games released Falcon Age, Jessica Mac made Shapes and Sounds and Everyday Shooter, never heard of it. Ivy Road made this, is a new developer founded by the Stanley Parable creator Davey Rendren and Gone Home and Tacoma co-creator Carla Zimonja. Now I feel like there was somebody else that worked on the Stanley Parable that there was conflict between the original Stanley Parable creator and that, and Stanley Parable creator has kind of failed to make any games in a reasonable amount of time at this point, and that's another thing to consider. Is we did not really get a quick continuation of his work, although I do think he went on to make one other game. Let's see, they're also bringing in the Minecraft sound designer Daniel Rosenfield. I've been watching some Minecraft modded coverage just to see if there was anything new compared to Stone Block, and Feed the Beast 6 to the Sky did come out about 6 months ago, and I totally missed it. But yeah, even at that, the Sky Block, the Stone Block, the Feed the Beast, all of the modded ones of those all seem to still go into crazy directions that I'm just not interested in. And I haven't seen anything else that's new as far as modded Minecraft lately. But yeah, once you get past the point where you're like just converting items into energy and then magically converting the energy back into items, it gets beyond the realm of reality, or when you're doing ridiculous magic things that just don't seem to work well with how I feel Minecraft should be, I lose interest. And all of the Stone Block, Sky Block, Feed the Beast 6, all of those have terrible end games. And in the funny way, even the mainstream unmodded Minecraft has a terrible end game, and just can't find a good end game. Defeating the dragon is theoretically the end game for Minecraft, although they've added more content since then. But yeah, maybe that's why people still play a lot of Minecraft, is because it just doesn't really have an end game. There really is no point when they tell you you've done everything, stop playing. Even though they do show credits after you defeat the dragon.
Are you ready for true combat? March on!
But yeah, not sure what I would really even want to find or have in a new Minecraft, but seeing a little bit of interest in it, which it does make me feel like I'm going in circles, because I'm a little bit interested in playing Binding Isaac again. I'm a little bit interested in playing Minecraft again. Meanwhile, I still have hundreds of other games to cover and play. Let's see. Where were we? No Code previously released the game Observation. Its new game is a horror game, and it's its biggest project to date. Alright, so several new games being published by Interactive. I wouldn't be surprised if Annapurna Interactive literally grabbed up a lot of publishing contracts that would have been going to something like Gearbox Publishing, or what's the Payday publishing company? Well, I can't remember the name of that one, but there definitely have been a couple of quickly defunct or quickly not that helpful publishers that popped up in the past 4 or 5 years, where they seem to try to make an offering that developers would like, but developers just didn't bite, and I imagine some of them negotiated to things like Interactive instead. I also wouldn't be surprised if some of these games would have tried to been Devolver Digital games, and simply Devolver Digital had too many games or didn't want to publish games that they didn't have faith in, because Devolver Digital's titles tend to be fairly fairly high quality.
Too slow.
If I'd played those cards backwards, I could have attacked for more damage this turn. Gametsu has the Famitsu sales updated to show more. Skyward Sword is at the top. Crayon Shin-Chan in the second place. Minecraft for Nintendo Switch is in the third place, which is a little weird. Then Ring Fit Adventures. Some of these games are fairly old releases. Like, let's just look at this. 2021. Minecraft came out in 2018. Ring Fit 2019. Then you have Monster Hunter and Baseball. Mario Kart came out in 2017. Game Builder Garage makes the 8th position in 2021. Then you have the board game, Japanese game from 2020. And then Super Rush, Mario Golf Super Rush, barely made it to the 10th place. I don't think people particularly are receiving that one well.
Quite the setback.
Let's speed things up.
March
Let's
on!
go ahead and evolve here.
There's no time for use too slow.
And then when you go further here, you have Smash Brothers from 2018, Animal Crossing from 2020, Mario Party from 2018, Splatoon 2 from 2017, Clubhouse 51 from 20, Pokemon Sword and Shield combined from 2019, Breath of the Wild from 2017. Utawaro Mono Zan 2 is not doing particularly well, making 11th position for Switch and 22nd position for PS4. Hardware sales, though, still doing fairly good, but we are seeing an increasing numbers of the Xbox Series S and X. But PlayStation 4 numbers are going lower and lower. We're not even seeing the new 3DS even listed anymore. We are seeing, though, what feels like an increase in next-gen console purchases for Japan. And it still feels like the numbers in total lean heavily for PlayStation. But I think Microsoft would consider it a success if they even managed to close the gap significantly. Right now the Series X and Series S combined is getting about 57,000 units. If they could get from their 57 units to 150,000 units, which is about how many PlayStation 5 digital editions have sold, they probably should call that a victory. That if they can get to 150,000 units, then they'd have to get much more sales and it would really have to be a snowball effect to catch with the standard PlayStation 5 at 767,000 units in total. But yeah, they could even get 150,000 total sales and beat the digital edition of the PlayStation 5. That should be a success for this generation, and then maybe in the next generation they'll be able to close the gap or even overtake PlayStation 5. Assuming there even is a PlayStation 6 in the next generation, which we just don't know. Like, I wouldn't be incredibly surprised if Sony Interactive Entertainment of California said we're not even bothering to make hardware for the next generation. But it really does feel like between Sony and Microsoft, they just take turns being arrogant and idiotic with their hardware releases. Moving on, a boys' love visual novel, Tokyo 24Ku Inoru, is coming to Switch in 2022 in Japan. We don't see a lot of boys' love, and arguably, like, I don't know if you really would even call this boys' love. That seems like a fairly old man as far as a yaoi style story. Yeah, we definitely don't see a lot of guy on guy action. We see way more girl on girl action as far as visual novels. And the Japanese still have a lot of hang-ups as far as openly admitting that there are gay Japanese people existing in their country.
Give me that! Let's speed things up. Too slow.
You're mean.
Let's see. Moving on, Komatsu, the Legend of Heroes Kuro no Kisekai, details 12 more sub-characters. Legend of Heroes just teasing out a lot of characters. So you kind of know, and I kind of assumed that was the case, that this was going to be a very large cast of characters in a very large RPG game. Anyways, at a certain point, if you're going to call your game Legend of Heroes, you have to live up to that and have a decent amount of heroes. Anyways, but yeah.
Too slow.
You're mean.
Give me that!
You can see already, even though this game is not out until September 30th in Japan, there is a link here, 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 here. That's 7 different links to 7 different articles already covering teases and bits of information about Legend of Heroes Kuro no Kisekai. Also, Tales of Arise, Spirit of Adventure, and Lifestyle feature trailers and side activity gameplays. This article has been updated with details and screenshots. Tales of Arise, another JRPG. They do seem like they want to tease them all and put them all out kind of at the same time. It's bold, certainly, to highlight fishing in your trailer, too. Yeah, fishing gameplay, camping and cooking, battle gameplay, looking for an owl gameplay, artifact gameplay, and costume premium pack showcase.
I go with the wind.
Let's see. Not sure which one I want to
Too slow.
Everyone needs an
go with.
life plan.
guess you play this. And then Port Royale 4 is coming to the PS5 and Xbox Series on September 10th. It's a free upgrade to existing owners, which I don't understand how you can have a free upgrade.
There's no other way.
I guess if you have the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One version of the game, you get a free upgrade to the new platforms, which that's nice, certainly. I don't know if Port Royale as a game is really worth my attention. To me, it seems to be 59% positive. Looks like it's a trading economy simulator, which if this was reviewed well, I'd potentially want to put this on my wish list so then I could get that other game, Gazillionaire, and show off a game that I played when in the 90s that arguably is not really worth covering otherwise, other than just for the nostalgia. And then like Idle Manager takes it in a different direction, certainly. But yeah, I cannot exclude the fact that it seems like nobody appreciates the game. It's got some problems and it's getting reviewed poorly. Okay, so the Gamma Sutra articles. Solidarity and tension on display during the employee walkout at Blizzard HQ. This is from the 28th. When it happened, one of the reporters, I believe Bryant Francis, but I could be wrong, of Gamma Sutra went there to report. The thing certainly didn't get the walkout didn't really get a lot of coverage, so I have to just assume that there isn't much of a attendance. Like when you look at these pictures, you're seeing posters and signs, and in this instance you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 maybe. I'm saying maybe 9 heads, 9 people in this, and in all fairness, a lot of them look like guys, but that may just be the fact that Activision Blizzard straight up doesn't hire enough women. And yeah, I would assume that since Gamma Sutra was pushing a specific narrative there, that Gamma Sutra would have specifically opted to try and make it look as big of an event as possible, and they weren't seemingly able to really do it. Of course, the walkout doesn't really matter. When you've got the state of California Department of Fair Employment and Housing suing you, that's where the real hammer is going to happen. And there is already some fallout, it seems, because Activision Blizzard has, according to a report I saw, already hired the same union-busting firm that Amazon.com hired.
No other way.
So
There is no retreat.
yeah, it is going to take a lot more effort and a lot more time if we are going to see a real union come out of Activision Blizzard. And there is the one ironic scenario where Activision Blizzard gets unionized and then immediately gets shut down, penalized, or just totally put out of business by the California lawsuit, or at least that they could shut down doing business and blame the California lawsuit for that reason, as just to avoid unionization. unfortunately, it really is a case that there's, unlike most union jobs that could be unionized, like there's hundreds and hundreds of Amazon employees in a specific warehouse. That can be a big protest. That can be a big walkout. Most businesses keep offices small and separate, so you can't do that, and they know what they're doing. So you'll have an office in one part of town that has like 5 or 10 employees, and you'll have offices in another part of town that has 5 or 10 employees, or you'll have one office warehouse or something in one town with maybe 50 employees, and then you'll have another warehouse in a different town with another 50 employees. So they can just use distance as a way of stopping people from coming together.
This town eats good folk for breakfast. Hands up!
And with video games in particular, those offices tend to always be very small. You're not going to really find any video game company that has hundreds upon hundreds of employees. So there is almost an argument there, if they really are going to push for unionization, that the employees of Activision Blizzard should make a direct call for fans of supporting that action and fans of video gamer in general to come and show solidarity and march with them. Not just friends and family of video game designers, but actual fans of video games. And that is certainly a big ask, and maybe we'll see that happen at some point. But I could also see just counter protests or gamers not showing up, and then people being embarrassed by the fact that gamers don't really care. Okay, if I play this, I can't do anything. I think I have to do this.
Even in death. One step closer to victory.
Which that's fine,
Past is my own.
because I can attack twice.
You're too
When?
strong.
Gamma Sutra has a blog here, The Faces of the Creator Economy for Do-It-Yourself Games. If anything, that phrase in particular is an interesting thought, where people are releasing unfinished products and then asking the players to make their own do-it-yourself games. That's kind of crazy as an idea, and I hope we don't see a trend of an increased number of games where they are just open sandbox games and you create it yourself. That's what I'm taking from the phrase do-it-yourself games without actually reading this article. It's very possible that this article has nothing to do with that, and this really is just talking about a game engine and creating games and that using that engine. Let's see. Gamma Sutra has basically the same news. The Stanley Parable, Tacoma, and Minecraft alum joined forces to form a new studio called Ivy Road. Let's see, we already talked about the PlayStation software beta. We'll let some console owners expand their SSD storage. Gamma Sutra has, let's see, let's look at our missions here. Since we're done with the daily quests at this point, and well, one would reset in an hour, everything else wouldn't reset until 20 hours from now. Now is the time to jump into the single player and see if we can actually win here. And we'll skip through the story so we don't spoil anything. Let's see. Guess we'll take this one. Is that really all our only options? No, these are the same cards. They've just changed the visuals. as to who's playing. This latest story seems to have nothing to do with the main characters at all, so unless the main characters are just going to magically show up.
I'll knock you out of your sorry state.
My world is drenched
Anyways,
in crimson.
Game of Citrus has this article. The Valve Corporation has filed a motion to dismiss Wolfire's lawsuit against the company, denying the claims that its practices are anti-competitive, and defending the notion that its 30% cut on sales accurately represents the service it provides developers. Now, Gamma Sutra definitely doing some yellow journalism propaganda here in making the headline Valve's response to Wolfire lawsuit deal with it. You always file a motion to dismiss. I've never heard of a lawsuit that was being taken seriously that didn't start with the idea of a motion to dismiss, if not multiple motions to dismiss. Wolfire Games, I don't even know what they made in general. They made the game Overgrowth. And they're making claims that Valve says they would remove their game from Steam, the game Overgrowth, from Steam if he allowed it to be sold anywhere, even from his own website, without Steam keys and without Steam DRM. Which, there's a possibility that this lawsuit actually has some weight. That is the kind of thing that other countries like Europe and, well, I don't know, Europe's not a country, but Australia certainly have complained about Valve doing in the past, and I wouldn't be surprised if Valve is guilty of basically price fixing. So yeah, I don't think we'll see any big changes. Meanwhile, here we have Overgrowth on Steam. It's available for purchase. It's rated very positively. They've sold and been reviewed 3,950 units in total, and this has been on sale for $9.89 6 times on Steam. Does Wolfire Games have anything else of interest? They have Receiver, they have Overgrowth, and they have Lugaroo. And then a game called Low Light Combat, which apparently is a free-to-play game coming out July 21st. So this lawsuit seems to not really have stopped them from releasing another game on Steam. Like, at the end of the day, it's the same old story. Like, game developers are upset and, if anything, whipped into a tizzy about a 30% cut on Steam's storefront. And they kind of are just hating on the big guy, which is, yeah, in all fairness, usually the right response to hate on the big guy. That being said, the 30% cut you get from Steam is not comparable to anything else. The Epic Store does not offer you the same audience, nor does it offer you the same features by any means as listing your game on Steam.
Fresh manna melon to potion fruit.
So, yeah, I could see a justifiable dismissal of any accusation of the. I mean, there really isn't, I think, any law that would force Steam into lowering its cut, and that being involved in the lawsuit itself is a, in my mind, a no-go concept. If you can get them on the price fixing, get them on the price fixing. There is potential there, but if you can't get them on price fixing, then you've kind of got nothing.
You get on my nerves.
What's funny is the Epic Games Store, in a lot of ways, is the successful version of what I believe Valve initially wanted to have happen with Steam, in that the vast majority of the games on the Epic Games Store use the Epic engine, whereas I would say not the vast majority of games on Steam use the Source engine. In fact, I would say very, very few games on the Valve and on Steam use the Source engine.
This is pure craftsmanship.
Let's see. Moving on, Resident Evil Village and digital sales help Capcom deliver record Q1 net sales, which I guess record for all time. That's what they mean.
Well, on to the next project.
Which, okay, that's believable. Can I play this and something else? No.
I shall give birth to a new world.
The uncharted desert awaits.
Thus the world begins.
You're joking, surely.
You're all invited to the raising of hell.
Let's see. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Niantic is going to rescind the Pokemon Go bans after players are wrongly accused of cheating. Apparently Niantic really dropped the ball there. I imagine that very well may not be good enough for a lot of other Pokemon Go players. Okay. Do we want to do this? This. I think you do this,
Raging flames have got your back.
and then you do
I
this.
shall give birth to a new world.
Now I feel like crying.
Twig won't do a
that.
thing.
Oh, but I've no time to spare.
World cycles on.
My wings and heart cry for blood.
You're
I don't
a
think I'm
fiery
gonna win
one.
here. If I do this, then I go store 6.
Fresh manna melons and potion fruit.
6 damage. Get rid of that.
I won!
There's more than one. Think before you act.
Hit
You're
that.
joking, surely.
I won't hurt you.
Moving on, Gamma Sutra has a job listing here for SMU Guildhall, looking for a professor of practice. I don't know what a professor of practice is. This is in Dallas, Texas. Faculty position. Is this a tenured position? I would assume as much if you're saying faculty instead of staff. Faculty to fill position in the area of specialization, gameplay creator, team game production, art or programming. Please apply to any multiple as applicable. So it looks like they're kind of looking for several different professors. Which I don't know if SMU Guildhall is just looking for new professors to scale up, or if this is a new facility, or if they're trying to catch like some of the people who left Gearbox. I could certainly see that also being an issue. Let's see.
There's no turning back.
Nice. Well, I might actually win here.
Oh, but I've
And
no
then
time to
Gamma
spare.
Sutra has an article here. The former Sega president, Kinji Matsubara, is now the new CEO of SNK. Which, okay. So, it's probably fairly big news. It does. And then destroy this.
Personal. It's justice.
There's no turning back.
And then do that. And we could have evolved.
Got a death wish or something? Despair or slay. Don't take this
And hit
personally.
that. Remember, I'm playing against the computer, so that should have been fairly easy. So then the next one, we don't even have to play a fight. See, yeah, these are like all the characters for this expansion, and they're just all like vampires. Just new vampire characters, which would have made a lot of sense for that to have brought in your standard vampire character from the main story, even if they were just going to fight the standard vampire character and get rid of him, because he's not particularly a great character anyways. I would prefer Alucard's character design as the vampire bloodcraft character way more than the default character. Alright, so we have a few games. Let's go through some games on Steam, and then when we see the beginning of the end, we'll call it a stream. Here we have a game called Omno, which is rated very positive. It has 75 reviews, calling it a relaxing exploration adventure game. It's $18.99, third-party EULA, several languages. I think that barely puts it over the point we need it to be, so it's kind of already reached high enough reviews to make it to the wish list. I could definitely see, though, not being particularly interested in this game, because it could just be not a lot going on. Here we have a game called Fuga, Memories of Steel. This is that one where you play as anthropomorphic animals running a simulation in this giant land tank weapons. So it's already on the full list, but you can see it's already very positive. $40 is way too expensive though. Full Japanese, no, full French language. Yeah, I just assumed it was Japanese. That was wrong of me. Yeah, again, if it's got over 30 reviews and it's mostly positive, just add it to the wish list. Like, we'll have to think about what the wish list, next time a wish list cleanup actually happens. Like, honestly, if I had more daily quests to do today, I'd probably do a bit of the follow list cleanup, because I haven't gotten around to doing any of that. Like, okay.
All the fluffy hugs.
Next, we have a game that's all in Asian characters, and it looks to just be an RPG game with anthropomorphic fox characters, dog characters. English is not supported, Chinese only, so obviously I can't put that on the wish list. Here we have Viking Heroes 2, which I would have sworn that there was a Viking Heroes game already on Steam, and it wasn't just Viking Heroes 1. There's a Viking Brothers and a Viking Heroes. Oh, I see what they're doing here. And that's where the name confusion comes from. English, German, and Russian as far as the languages. It's just a resource management game though, so no real interest there. Let's see. Guess all I can do is play this.
It's not there.
Let's see. Next we have a game called Abomination. Abomination? It's supposed to be like Abomination.
Connect with her.
Looks like it's a RPG, kind of like a Pokemon creature collector game, but it's also tagged as roguelike, which is a little weird. 1999, English, Japanese, Korean, and Chinese. Yes, I have to put this on the follow list, but it does seem fairly empty, so I'm not having the highest of hopes on it. Here we have a game called Traditional Chinese Medicine Simulator, which is Chinese only, English not supported, $19.99. Yeah. The myth of traditional medicine is still propagated far too much for my taste. If something can be scientifically proven to be useful, then we just call it medicine. If you have to put any other descriptors in front of medicine, then it's not real medicine. And it's not likely to be effective or safe. But I will meet people halfway and say that there's very possibly some traditional ingredients or things that were used as traditional medical ingredients that have not been researched enough because of the fact that it wouldn't make drug companies as much money. And I would have to say, unfortunately, that burden needs to fall directly onto the shoulders of people like the UK and other countries that have national health care service, and their main focus and only focus should be to reduce the expense of drugs and medicine. And we have yet to see anything like that actually come out. If anything, the NHS in the UK and services like that have been less likely to allow and approve medicines because they are taking a very precautious approach to it and don't want to approve something that is just not, that is potentially dangerous.
Now I feel like crying.
Moving away from that rant, we have a game on Steam here called Mirai, M-I-R-A-Y, which is just a mirror bouncing ball game for $6.99. English and Korean, nothing there of interest. Here we have Blaster Master Zero, which we've seen a lot about. Blaster Master Zero 3. This is Blaster Master Zero 3, so this needs to go on the fall list no matter what. It's already 94% positive. I'm still not really sure though if it's the kind of game I want to play. It does just seem like a lot of these games came out really close to each other as far as the Blaster Master Zero series. It's $11.99, bunch of languages. Like if we go and look. Let's see. That.
Feel my fear again.
That. And then that.
Someone call tech support.
Yeah, if we look here at Inti Creates,
This is no
as far as the games that they've released, Gun Girl VR would not have been one I would have guessed. Nor would I really have thought Curse of the Moon 2, which apparently that just came out to very little fanfare. Didn't realize they were also doing a Zero Striker Gunvolt. Blaster Master 2 came out November 29th, 2019. Blaster Master Zero 1 came out July 14th, 2019. So it has really been a short release. And see, I'm not sure if you don't need to play the Zero Striker Gunvolt series in collaboration with Blaster Master Zero, or if it's just that both of these games kind of feel like they are in the same universe. Whereas we know Galgun VR, which apparently they only released Galgun VR, or published that one, is totally not in that universe.
True access. Take only what is necessary.
Let's see.
Each life has a different value.
You want to hear about my coil tech?
Next we have a game on Steam here called Alpaca Stacka, which looks like a platforming game where you get little chickens on the back of an alpaca to take it back to the chicken mother. It's a little platforming game. It's free. It's English only. It's rated very positively. Is it a student project? No. It's just a free game. So I guess I can add it to the wish list, but there's kind of no reason to even bother to play this game. I could just say go check it out. Just go play it. It's free. It'll just cost you your time. And I've yet to get to the point where I'm actually being precious about people's time.
Let's have a look-see.
The hour of judgment has come.
Okay. See, next we have a game on Steam called Dark Forest Project, which it looks to just be a top-down twin-stick shooter. $9.99, English only. Here we have a game that is all in Asian characters. Looks to be a visual novel, dating sim. I would lean towards Chinese, but the art looks pretty good for a Chinese game. English not supported, $5.59. Chinese full audio. Yep. Doesn't look terrible. Reason I think I would lean towards Chinese on this is you notice there's not really going for the sailor Japanese outfits here. More going for a more Western style of outfits. It's kind of a half in the middle design. I guess you could also say there's a lot of brown haired and blonde people here, so if these were supposed to actually be Asians, that doesn't really make a lot of sense either. Okay. What do I want to do? I
was too
can
late,
hit
is that
that.
all?
Certainly. I could do this,
One
I
arrow shot,
guess.
and it's goodbye
You're
to
not
love.
half bad yourself.
Oh, the engine's busted!
See.
I shall give
Next we have a game on Steam here called Idle Tower Defense Hero vs. Zombies, which is obviously just a tower defense game with no interest. Early access, free to play with in-app purchases. Here we have a game called Pingers, which looks like it's a four-way Pong game. Nothing of interest there. $4.99. English allegedly full audio. Here we have a 1000 bot simulator, which I have no idea what bot is as a currency. Is that some Asian currency? 59 cents English only. Seems to be a joke game, if anything. So you hit this, and then you hit
was too late, is
this.
that all?
That should win for us, but can we play anything that would guarantee a victory, just to be careful?
There is no escape from the apocalypse to come. Intriguing. The gods will know fear.
Oh my.
There we go. Not particularly challenging fights. There. Like, I was kind of expecting more. I recognize this character, so this is the fortune teller from a previous chapter, so obviously she's gonna play some role. Apparently there's before we do this, didn't I just have to beat 12? $14. Okay, so there are 2 more chapters I'd have to get through this, or we'll just get through the news, whichever happens first. Next we have a game on Steam here. Let's go ahead and skip this. Next we have a game on Steam here called Pill Puzzle One Move, which, yeah, I just don't think this is
No
really the way I'd want a puzzle game like this depicted. Kind of feels like overly complicated visually for what is actually a simplistic puzzle game. 79 cents English only. I'm gonna skip that. Here we have something tagged psychological horror called Fairy Sister, which to me looks like it's just anime girls in jigsaw puzzle form. $1.19 English allegedly full audio. We're not seeing a ton of those types of games these days, but we see an occasional one. Here we have a game called Crimson Glaive Sigma, which
Sate my thirst.
looks like it's a 2 zoomed out platforming, precision platforming game with kind of bad graphics. $11.69, English only. That is way too expensive also. Let's see. How did I end up with these cards? This follower has defense, he'll do a bunch of things. So this card apparently just constantly gets defense. So we need to just play cards that can get defense non-stop. So here's a game called Pedro's Adventure in Spanish, Learn Spanish, which it does certainly come down to a question of, can you play this game if you know very little Spanish at all? I think that would be a funny challenge on me. I know very little Spanish. I never formally took a class or anything. So could I play a point and click adventure game in Spanish designed to be somewhat simplistic? Like I know Adios. That would be an interesting idea. $24.99 is really expensive though. Allegedly full English, which I don't believe that's true. This very well. This game is purposely designed to be entirely in Spanish, simple Spanish with no in-game translation. Then why are you saying it's in English subtitles and all that? That's dishonesty, whether it's intended or not. Now, 10 to 15 hours maybe. Is this game for beginners? No, unless you're very serious about learning Spanish through immersion, enjoying a challenge, and are willing to learn as you go. This game is particularly useful for people who have a very basic level of Spanish and want to put their learning into practice. Yeah, that puts me kind of out of the realm of this. I'd like to see some reviews of this, but honestly, I don't think so. That seems a little too crazy an idea. And certainly you have a case where this could be a game where they made a game in Spanish and then they're trying to sell it to English audiences, and they've created an interesting scam / gimmick to try and get to that point.
Impossible.
That's all belongs to me.
Okay.
Nothing personal, but first.
So when you play this, it lets you build up this guy. Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called Space Tow Truck, which doesn't look interesting. Some kind of puzzle game, but yeah, I don't even get it. $9.99, English and French. These screenshots really just feel like they're all over the place and not visually appealing. Next we have Yummy Mahjong, which is not really even Mahjong at that point. It's just matched two images in a kind of gravity-fed Tetris type game. $2.39, English, full audio only. I guess you might call it something closer to a Candy Crush game, more than anything.
Your mincemeat.
I should have attacked first, but I actually don't think that would have mattered.
Nothing personal, but first.
Are you ready to evolve anything? Nope. Can't be destroyed by effects. So Bane won't kill it? No. Interesting. So I could have attacked with this and that. Next we have a game on Steam called The Cyclist Tactics, which just looks like a management game of no interest. $16.99, bunch of languages.
Whatever shall I do with you?
Here we have a game called Laser Zone, which looks like a laser puzzle game. Maybe not. Maybe it's just avoiding lasers. $12.59 English and Korean. Calling it an action and adventure puzzle game. Yeah, I think this one deserves a follow. Because I don't think this is just a puzzle game. So we'll give it a chance. Okay. So, this one. And then this one.
By the storm.
And then if I play this,
I'm already a proper lady, you know.
that lets me pull that one back up.
My, oh my.
I'm getting dangerously close though to dying.
That's just how it is.
Here's that game Paint the Town Red. This did not come out July 29, 2021. It may have come out of early access at that time, but this game has been teased in early access, and while it is received very positively, I'm not sure if this is really something I want to play, because it really is just like getting into a big fight with a bunch of voxel based characters and beating up things. It does seem like in this trailer a lot more content has been added since the last time I saw it. It's $14.99, that's way too expensive. English, allegedly full audio with several other languages. Yeah, I just have to say no to this one. Bar fight simulator is not something that particularly interests me. So if we can try this deck, sure, why not? Here we have a game called Idle Monster Frontier, which is already mixed. Doesn't look like anything of interest. Looks like a cell phone game. Free to play with in-app purchases.
There is no
Here we
meaning
have
to
a
be
game
found
called
here.
Reptiles the Hunt, which is already mixed, which is a shame because this looks like a good Turok clone, and we need more Turok clones. Although what's funny is he has a drone on his belt, so it's not some kind of set in the past hunting dinosaurs thing. It's $8.49 English full audio. I'm going to put this on the follow list despite the fact that it's already mixed. I'll probably remove it from the follow list fairly quickly. I wouldn't mind the game while you're running around hunting dinosaurs. Like, I don't think too many people are going to be upset on that. The whole like pro animal people, like animal rights people, I think would not really make a big stink about fighting virtual dinosaurs, but maybe they would.
My,
Okay.
Oh my.
So we do
Check out
this,
my fancy footwork.
and then
Get ready to fly.
oh, we
Nothing personal, but burn.
is there a reason to really attack that? I don't know if there is. Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called Big Fish, which looks like it's a frustration platformer with swinging. The graphics look pretty terrible. It's tagged as a Metroidvania game. Early access, English only, $12.74. Here we have a game called Skydrift Infinity, which looks like it's a fly around racing game that maybe has a chance of being good. $8.99, bunch of languages. I'll put that on the follow list. Never did get around to seeing if I could increase the smoothness on the scrolling.
Shut it!
So the point here is to try and kill all of this
Incinerate.
as fast as possible.
Check out my fancy footwork.
Nothing personal, but burn.
Get ready to fly.
I may have played out of order there.
You don't find gizmos
Yeah,
like
we
this
have another
everywhere,
Vampire
do
the
you?
Masquerade Out of Blood. This is a full text game, which means I would not be interested in it. $7.99, English only. Yep. It seems to me nobody really owns Vampire the Masquerade. It's either some kind of open source thing or I don't even know. Because ooh, that is a nice feature.
Shut it!
Incinerate.
Although I don't know if I really did enough there.
You have summoned the blade of purgation here.
Next, we have a game called Nothing to Remember, which is supposed to be an immersive murder mystery game, but seems to be fairly text-based.
Purgatory.
Doesn't look completely text-based though. $8.09, bunch of languages. I'll put it on the follow list. I imagine it won't ever get reviewed. Okay. See, Storm and +2/+2 I think would be great.
Shut it!
Let's hit this first
Incinerate.
and this first. I should have attacked that. That was stupid.
Did someone call for a genius?
Nothing personal, but burn.
Okay, what else do we have? Let's put that on the field.
We shall. Through moments both fleeting and eternal.
Nothing personal, but burn. On your right, no, your left.
Well, that seems to have gone fairly well. Do we want to evolve something here? Seems like we could evolve this guy.
I have had enough. Burn and scatter like the ashes.
Move it or lose it.
Guess we have to do that.
Impossible.
Judgment is paramount to order.
Still don't think I'm playing quite well enough.
Guinea pigs, where are you?
Like, the strategy is just so new to
That's
me.
how it is, isn't it?
Here we have a game called The Vagabond Emperor, which just looks like it's either a tabletop game or just a boring looking RPG game. Early access, English and Russian, 1999. Here we have a game called Elder Souls, which looks like it's a Souls-like action top-down hack and slash. Doesn't look bad. $16.99, bunch of languages. Put that on the follow list. Okay. So we want to hit this one,
What is it you desire?
and then hit this one,
Taken by the storm.
and then hit this one.
Someone call for a genius?
And we'll go ahead and attack here with that one first. Then we'll put this one up.
Personal, but burn.
Let's see. Can't play that. Can't play that. I only really play this.
Nothing personal, but burn.
See, I could evolve this and attack something with Rush. Or I could evolve this and attack something,
Intriguing.
which would probably be better to do that.
A second wind blows. Got to roam in style.
Shutting down.
You can struggle.
It still feels like I'm gonna lose.
Ah, the design fault lies with you.
Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called Nemetheia, Tale of the Legendary Saviors, which just looks like an RPG game of no interest. English, full audio, $3.49. Says try pre-built deck. Alright, well, we'll do Midnight Mistress. Here we have Cooking Simulator VR, which I was keeping an eye on Cooking Simulator, but I don't really see a reason why I'd want to do VR
There is no meaning to be found
other
here.
than to see that yes, it is positively reviewed, so I guess I put it on the follow list because of that. This does look like the first simulator cooking game that actually might be enjoyable as a way of actually just cooking, but I'm not 100% sure on that. It may also be more of a joke game where you are just constantly failing miserably to succeed, like Surgeon Simulator goes. And that's the point. Here we have a game called Jewel Match Origins, Police Imperial Collector's Edition, which is from Grey Alien Games, which most things called Collector's Editions are from Big Fish Games. This is also a Match 3 game and not a Hidden Object game. $8.49, English only. It's a little too expensive, like many Big Fish games. Here we have a game on Steam called Starbase, which apparently is a massive multiplayer game. Yeah, I doubt this would catch people's attention too much, but it is rated very positively in early access. Unfortunately, it's an MMO, so I would never cover it. Here we have a game called El Mucho, which is, I guess, the second Spanish language game we've seen. It just looks like a bad RPG game, though. Early access, $14.99. They're saying it's close to Disgaea, which I don't see the comparison there.
Shut it!
With that.
Have a look over this new
card. Charge this guy up. Here we have a game on Steam called Kindo, which is looks like a puzzle platformer, but it has a nice bit of polish on it, which makes me want to give it a bit more chance than normally I would. Yeah, but I don't know. Does seem fairly simplistic. They want $1.39, so they're not really asking a lot. It's English only. I'll give it a chance and put it on the follow list. Let's see, and then put that.
Please
Put
steal
that.
responsibly.
Union Burst.
This is a great deal, you know.
Next, we have a game on Steam called Conundrum, which looks like it's just a physics puzzle. It's a little bit better animated than a lot of physics puzzles, but still not anything of interest. $5.99, English and Russian. Okay. Do we have any way at all of buffing up this character to do more damage? Can do 3 damage to this, and then do that, and then do that,
What? Impossible!
and then suppose we play this,
Look over this new contract.
and then do that.
Nothing personal, but first.
Next, we have a game on the Steam called The Witch Doctor, which is just an RPG Maker game. $5.09. Nothing of interest. Here we have the Dungeons of Voidria, which looks slightly better and more of kind of a Zelda-esque dungeon crawler. Turn-based strategy game though, and I'm not sure I'm really interested in that. The characters don't look particularly interesting. The fight mechanic doesn't look particularly interesting. Early access for $10.19, which is an odd price. Here we have a game on Steam called Nitron Wars, which I think is an asset flip first-person shooter if I was to guess. It looks nicely polished in the game, but out in the menu it looks like total garbage, which makes it feel like an asset flip. $2.69, English full audio. That's actually too cheap. Like, that's way too cheap.
Such a good guinea pig!
Okay. Storm.
Cheap and underhanded? Why, thank you.
Nothing personal, but first.
Do we want to evolve here and try and do more damage? Or do we want to save the evolves?
Oh, that all you got?
Oh my.
Here we have a game called B period Art, which I suspect is a side-scrolling shooter game. With co-op gameplay. Interesting.
Just how it is, isn't it?
I kind of like the graphics, but I don't like the idea of co-op gameplay, and I don't like the idea of a side-scrolling shooter. $7.99. Apparently you can play it in single player. English only. Guess I'll leave it on the follow list and give it more of a chance. But it's a uphill climb, certainly, to convince me to want to play a side-scrolling game. Okay. Can we put a Natrian tree in the field in any way? Oops. I just screwed up pretty badly there.
A fine battle.
Shut it! Shutting down.
Yeah. Think I messed up pretty badly there. I don't know if that's gonna be recoverable.
There is no escape from the apocalypse to come.
Here's that game, Escape from Naraka, not to be confused with Naraka Bloodlust or whatever that one was called.
Nothing personal, but first.
There literally are two games with Naraka in the name. One of which I think is intentionally creating name confusion with the other one. Because this is a 3D platformer, Infinite Runner game. The other one's an MMO. It's $13.49. It's already on the fall list. So I'd already checked that one out. Let's see if this works.
I love you.
I have no idea how that card ended back up in my hand. Or back on the field. Here we have a game on Steam called Code Zero, which looks a little low polygon-y, hack and slash.
This is no coincidence.
They're calling it an anime hack and slash with intense 3D combat. I don't think there really is enough game here to make me think that it's worth playing. Early access for $1.59, English only. Here we have a game called Lazy Galaxy 2, which looks like it's a sci-fi management game. Calling it real-time strategy elements. $4.99. I think I'll say no to that also. Yes, in this. Next we have a game on Steam called Screw Up, which looks like it's a resource management survival game. Yeah. It doesn't look polished quite enough with the menu system in particular to make it interesting. $1.79, English only. Let's see. Guess we do that.
Tenacity will exterminate you, vermin.
Then that'll puffs that one up. Let's see. Next we have a game called Vengeful Rights, which looks like it's a VR RPG game. The graphics don't look particularly good enough, but it does, I will applaud it for, it looks like it's more of a actual game in VR, which we've not really seen a lot of that. I did watch a couple of videos talking about the Steam Deck. Apparently they're claiming the Steam Deck is going to have 16 gigabytes of RAM. I really want to get into the nitty-gritty of that at some point though and find out if that includes graphics RAM or not, because I think it probably is shared RAM, which is slightly different.
Check out my fancy footwork.
You don't belong here.
Oh my.
I could definitely see it being shared. 16 gigabytes of shared RAM, which would basically be 8 gigabytes of video RAM, or 6 gigabytes of video RAM, and then the remaining for computer RAM, which honestly that still may be more than enough.
Impossible.
Like, I could definitely see that being more than enough.
Pain and suffering are what I live for.
I should have attacked, and I didn't. Okay, do we want to kill this? I think we do. I think the implication here is you only survive this deck. If you, this battle, if you just constantly attack and clear the field. Here we have a game called The Ascent from Curve Digital, which I think we've been keeping an eye on. It's mostly positive. Is it a single player top-down twin stick shooter? The graphics don't really grab me a lot. Single player and online co-op, $26.99, English full audio. It seems like it maybe just came out of early access. I'm gonna put this on the follow list, but that price tag is asking a lot. And things being set in the cyberpunk world these days really does not play well. After Cyberpunk 2077 pretty much just pooped the bed on that one. All allies and enemies. Do this twice. And we'll just do it.
Pity is for the weak.
Interesting. That didn't cause us to leave the field. Thought it would.
I'll teach you real quick.
Here we have Zombieland VR Headshot Fever, which is coming out way late as far as Zombieland 2, the movie, coming out, and even later if it was supposed to be released during the time of Zombieland 1. It requires VR. It's $19.99, English full audio. I would believe that. The graphics don't look particularly great as far as the characters, but I bet you don't even see them that often. Yeah, I want to put this on the follow list just to see if it gets anybody to actually play it, but I'm particularly dubious.
Such a good guinea pig.
Okay. +2 in rush, which means I'm just gonna hit this and then do this, and then I think we can go ahead and put that back on the field.
Melt under my touch.
Guess you hit this.
Back home in a jiffy.
I guess you do this.
With this payment, darkness stands with you.
Then I guess you power that up.
Personal, but burn.
We'll have to start thinking about whether we want to evolve this now, because you really only have one strike with this. I recognize now, so you can strike and it will destroy all enemies, and that gives you one reset, and then you have to start all over again.
Better a glorious death than an ignominious life.
See. Next we have a game on Steam called Waifu Cover 2 Censored Edition, which is :censored edition, which makes me wonder if it always was a censored edition. They want $4.24. It doesn't seem to me like there is an uncensored edition. This is one of those cases where almost certainly the characters were in different clothing and they're just having clothing drawn over them. It seems like it's all over the place as far as art style, all over the place as far as what it's trying to display. The actual gameplay seems to be a shoot 'em up, not even a side-scrolling shooter. And yeah, it really just feels like it's all over the place. Okay, play something like this, and are we ready for that? I think we are.
This whip is an extension of myself.
Let's defile the battlefield.
Then you heat this up,
Personal, but burn.
and then you hit that,
Is that all?
and that resets that. Okay. And then I guess at that point you can just play this.
Tenacity will exterminate you, vermin.
We can start to buff that up some more. And we can evolve. That's probably worth our effort to evolve here.
War is so I love the chaos.
So yeah, I don't think there's anything that would have me put waifu covered to censored edition
You can struggle
on
right, darling.
Steam, or like put it on the wish list. They have another game they've published here called Waifu Discovered 2. So I assume that that's the joke, is that
Annihilate them.
it is the exact same game. It does look like it is the exact same game. Yep, it is the exact same game. The screenshots are different, and in this case it's another instance of the screenshots actually showing real nudity. See, Waifu Discovered 2 came out July 29th, 2021 also. So, yeah. It's interesting to have both come out. Neither one of them seem to be really getting stopped by Steam or anything from being on sale. Okay, Corrupting Blood does nothing now, so doing that at that point. Can't fuse anything to that card.
Pain and
Do this.
suffering are what I live for.
Nothing personal, but burn.
Alright, so evolve that to
Intriguing.
a 7.
Burn and scatter like the ashes.
And that way we can do this. That didn't kill everything. Yeah, I think we're still safe. Though.
Judgment is paramount to
Here we have a game on Steam called King Hajawala, which
Judgment is paramount
looks like
to
it's some kind of asset flip game. I don't know how you'd pronounce that
I'll lead their troops
that word. $26.99 English only. Yep. Looks like total garbage. Okay. If I was to attack now, can't do anything, can't evolve. We need something that would give more of an attack. +1, +4, rush. Okay. Hit this. and then play this,
Mankind's tenacity will exterminate you, vermin.
then try and buff that up. And then hit that. And then hit that.
Nothing personal, but burn.
Shut it! Well, I knew something!
Okay, that resets it.
Check out my fancy footwork. Nothing personal, but burn. Get ready to fly.
My, oh my.
Think I'm gonna win here. Well, this game looks like the guy's not wearing any pants. I mean, that is some thick guy butt here. Here we have something called XOMB MP FPS, which, yeah, just looks like an asset flip first person shooter to me. $2 English full audio. Here we have a game called Keep the Keep, which looks like it's some kind of puzzle chess clone. Early access, third-party EULA, English, $8.49. I'd say that's a high price. Is it single player? Yes, I'm gonna put it on the fall list, but it's probably not gonna get any further than that. Here we have Symbiotic Love, Yori visual novel. So we still have a few of these come out, although it is oddly still this weird growing divide between lesbian visual novels and then lesbian visual novels that have adult content in them. I don't know if there's claims of exploitation here, and they're not letting those types of games on Steam, even though I know those types of games must exist and being made, or if there's just something else going on. We still are seeing mostly garbage games when they are adult content games, instead of something closer to a more polished experience. Okay, so we got that single player stuff done. But yeah, compared to Waifu Discovered, this looks more polished and like they're putting more care into it. Let's see if I can just go through this news. According to Video Game Chronicles, Sony is reportedly leaning towards delaying Horizon Forbidden West to 2022. Yeah, that could be it. This is that screenshot where her face looks particularly bloated. It could happen. According to Gamasutra, the VR company In Dreams opens a fully remote development studio to diversify its portfolio. Video Game Chronicles says Seagate confirms its first PS5 ready SSD will cost $275 for 1 terabyte. That is fairly expensive. $169 for 500 gigabytes is even fairly expensive. Like, suppose what I should do here is just see what a Samsung 980 costs these days. Let's see. 1 terabyte of Samsung 980 is $200. 500 gigabytes for a Samsung 980 is going for $120. Maybe I'm not looking specifically at the 980 Pro. No, I see a 980 Pro here for $200 for 1 terabyte. So you are getting screwed, to say the least, if you buy a specific NVMe SSD that's labeled to work with the PlayStation 5. And you probably wouldn't see much of a improvement really between any SSD of decent speed and the top tier ones that they're going to recommend. Let's see, we have a futuristic racing game called Ion Driver, now available for the PS4, according to Gematsu. Murder Mystery Machine for the PS4 and Xbox One and Switch launches August 25th, according to Gematsu. And Earth Defense Force 4.1, The Shadow of New Despair, is coming to the Switch in 2022 in Japan. Let's see. Apparently this has already come out on other platforms though, so yep. It's already on my wish list. What's funny is the publisher of Earth Defense Force is also the publisher of Onichambara. So there's sometimes some crossovers where you see Onichambara characters in Earth Defense Force and other games from D3 Publishing. Yeah, I just watched a retrospective, and pretty much what they're saying is that the retrospective said the only Onichambara game worth playing was Origin and Origin Z2, and that this is actually garbage from all reviews. But Z2 Chaos from 2016. So you're kind of in this weird position where you can play the bad game to get the story and the experience of the bad game in Origin. It came out in 2020. Or you can play the one good game in the series, which is Z2 Chaos, and just hope at some point that they'll actually have a way of improving so that the new games are not... if they make any new games in their series, in the Onichambara series, they would be really good. I think we had already talked about this, but the summer sale for the Epic Games Store is happening. I can't really recommend anybody buying any games on the Epic Games Store. Notice the storefront doesn't particularly do the greatest job as far as pushing you towards new games. Like, very quickly you're pushed towards Fortnite. You've got your 2 free games, which is about the only reason you'd come to the store. Plague Tale Innocence and Speed Brawl coming out soon. And then you've got just more advertisements, but it kind of runs out of games fairly quickly compared to Steam, which is just constantly running. Steam is constantly making more and more things to show you, or finding more and more things to show you. Game & Sutra has an article. Facebook has blocked a ad by Road96 for being political messaging. I imagine that is mostly just an oversight, but I also wouldn't be surprised if Facebook is just being fairly cautious with its advertising these days, considering how bad it's been in the past. Let's see, here we have a game called Profectus on Steam, which just looks like a voxel survival game. $3.99 English and German. Let's see. According to Game & Sutra, Panic managed to sell 20,000 playdates in under 20 minutes, which I guess is to say that there is 1,000 suckers born every minute, because playdate is way overpriced and not really a console device or toy that 20,000 people should have bought, particularly right now. I imagine these will start selling incredibly cheaply. Unless they just become weird collectibles. I would imagine we start seeing them in clones of these types of games coming out super, super cheap. Alright. Let's see if we are mostly done with the news. I have a lot of things still. Too many tabs open. Earth Defense Force 2017 for the Switch has a debut trailer, which, being set in 2017 is kind of going backwards, I think, in the timeline of the Earth Defense Force series. And see, these games tend to look pretty bad, so putting them on the Switch is not a bad idea. I kind of wish they would just take some time and just improve the games in general. Video Game Chronicles has an article. An early version of Mario Kart has been released, including a track editor. This was done by a modder. This is a 1991 build from 9 months before the game was released. Like, community modder has repaired it to make it actually work. I don't know if that really changes much, though. Like, why would you want to play the unfinished version of a game or a prototype of a game unless you're just being particularly historic, or you're collecting things for historical museum-like purposes? Gamasutra has an article here. Microsoft is pulling Forza Motorsport 7 from sale less than 4 years later. Which, okay. Guess that your opinion on that drastically switches between whether or not you care about Forza Motorsport 7. Gamasutra says Ubisoft's staff claim that the publisher has sidelined their demands and continues to protect known offenders. Of course, it does definitely seem like there are some people in Ubisoft staff. I don't know if it's the vast majority or not, and I don't even know if it is actually current staff or fired previous staff at this point that seem to be at war with the management, and the management's not having it, nor are any of the claims really sticking, which that seems to be the biggest problem with this whole Ubisoft drama, is that it's mostly being just repeated and repeated by Gamasutra and other French news sites. The Forgotten City was one of these games that was buggy on day one, so they've put out a patch, which I don't want to see that becoming a trend. Certainly. According to Gamatsu, Kenna Bridge of Spirits has been delayed to September 21st, no longer coming out August 24th. So, yet another game that has been advertised fairly frequently lately, and they just don't have a way of finishing the job and getting it out on time. Final Fantasy 1 by Square Enix is now on Steam, so I put that on the wish list. Honestly, I think this was the Final Fantasy game that I played on PC for like an hour trying to beat the first dragon that you're supposed to lose to. It was either 1, 2, or 3. I don't see any way. I'd love to own these games just for historical reasons, but I don't see any reason to actually play them. That you spend maybe 5 minutes to an hour spotlighting a game like this, and then you would say, let's move on to Final Fantasy 13 instead. Final Fantasy 2 looks very similar, but the character outfits are different, and so that's not the game I played, I think. It is also slowly getting reviews. You'd think it'd get more reviews, but I guess it's just too old. I guess the real question would be, are we getting to the point where Final Fantasy IV would be supported? Because, yeah, I don't know if they've got 4. This might have been the game, actually, too. Like, it's hard to tell. It looks like the same characters from Final Fantasy 1. But yeah, I definitely recognize these characters. Everybody probably should. So 1 through 6 bundle is now available. So there is a Final Fantasy 4. Let's see, Final Fantasy 4 OST and Final Fantasy 4, 5, and 6. Yep. So I missed these because these are not out yet. Interesting. So yeah, 6 is not out yet. They're being, I guess, a little bit slow with it. Yeah, and that's probably true for 4 and 5 also. Alright. So that got me to the end of all of the tabs, but I definitely have a lot of tabs left over for Monday. But we also have been going for 4 hours, so let me just quickly go through my Twitter feed and see if there's any new news that's happened worth talking about. Apparently Myst and Tetris Effect are now bundled for Oculus if you want to buy a pack of 2 fairly different kinds of games. Western Digital is the second manufacturer to confirm a PlayStation 5 compatible NVMe. But what's interesting about the Western Digital Black here is just the massive heatsink that they've built to go on top of it. Which that's kind of the problem, is that whoever created the NVMe form factor created it to squeeze into a laptop or something and did not give it any consideration as far as like where the heat would go and where cooling would go. I honestly don't know why you would have made them like that. If anything, you would have wanted to make it more square in its form factor instead of long. Yeah, the idea that there is just such varied lengths in millimeters for NVMe just seems crazy. Like, you don't see varied lengths in things. Okay. Another report has come out from Video Game Chronicles saying Sony has decided and delayed Horizon Forbidden West into next year. So now there's 2 reports out, which honestly could be reporting from the same source, so that doesn't really confirm anything. Patch 1.03 for Disgaea 6 is live. If that interests anybody. Okay. Yeah, I guess I'm still waiting for official confirmation. It's kind of unimportant to me to report on rumors. Yeah, SD cards, no memory card has had non-standard lengths. There's been a lot of variety in video cards as far as how long they go, but the slots they go into is fairly standard, and the height that the boards go to is fairly standard. CPUs, of course, are standard amongst being AMD or Intel or CPUs. Yeah, I'm still just scrolling down my Twitter feeds. I think we're probably close to being done. I might do some curation over the course of the weekend. I also have side projects I want to try and finish this weekend if I finally have all of the components delivered and ordered. Ideally that'll get finished and I'll be done with it. Kind of good riddance. Yeah, projects can turn sour very quickly if they get frustrating and irritating. Particularly for me, like physical projects compared to just a mental programming type project. Okay, 2 more streams to check and then we'll be done. That one was easy. 1 more stream. Video Game Chronicles as a Twitter feed still has problems in that it repeats itself. And that's fairly annoying to see the same tweets repeated. Okay. Yep. Well, we got all the missions done, I believe, except for the reset daily mission, which I won't care too much about that as far as temporary gems. And so that's going to be it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.